DxD, building a demon clan from scratch. Tea, coffee, or cola? Sana and Rias stared silently at the can of cola in front of them. Wasn't this basically not a choice at all? Sorry, I think cola is all I have. Sana. Rias. Lynn leaned back on the sofa, ignoring their speechless expressions. Sana Satrai and Rias Gremory. Having watched 2 seasons of high school DxD in his previous life, Lynn was naturally familiar with these two. But that was all. Since arriving in this world, he had never crossed paths with them. The sudden visit today still left him confused. Lynn asked, "So, why are you two here?" Rias Gremory. "Just call me Rias." After briefly introducing herself, Rias shot Sana a look, signaling for her to speak first. Meanwhile, she stared at the can of cola in front of her, as if debating whether to open it. Sana Satrai. After stating her name, Sana placed a parchment on the table. Lynn glanced down, his eyes narrowing slightly. The parchment was filled with intricate text, none of which belonged to any human language. Demonic script. Seeing the familiar writing, Lynn felt momentarily dazed. It had been a long time since he'd last seen devil script after settling in the human world. And then, Lynn's gaze sharpened as he shifted his focus toward the bottom of the parchment. The Valifor family crest. Valifor once a noble house of devils in the underworld. His full name was Lynn Valifor. A reincarnated soul, now living his second life. In this life, he wasn't purely human, he was a hybrid of human and devil. However, when he was just 7 years old, he had been exiled from the Valifor family due to his mixed heritage and forced to live in the human world. And now, it seemed that his surname had finally caught up with him. This parchment was a marriage contract. The two parties involved, the Valifor family and the Satrai family. Lynn's expression turned odd. No wonder they had come looking for him. Under normal circumstances, as a half-blood devil, a marriage contract with the Satrai family should have had nothing to do with him. However, the Valifor clan had been completely wiped out overnight several years ago. As the last surviving member of his bloodline, the marriage contract had naturally fallen onto him. But Lynn glanced at Sana Satrai, whose face remained emotionless. He could already guess her intention. She wasn't here to fulfill the engagement. So, she was here to break it off? A reincarnated soul, abandoned by his noble lineage, now facing an arranged engagement being annulled. This was just like BTTH protagonist's script. Lynn spoke bluntly, "You want to cancel the engagement?" Sana and Rias were momentarily stunned. After exchanging a glance, Sana nodded and said, "Yes. I'm sorry. I will compensate you." A flicker of guilt flashed in her eyes. With the Valifor bloodline reduced to just one person, her coming here to break off the engagement was undoubtedly rubbing salt in the wound. But she really didn't want to spend her life with someone she had never met and had no emotional connection with. "All right, I agree." Lynn accepted without hesitation. It wasn't because of so-called compensation, he simply didn't want any unnecessary trouble. If he remembered correctly, the person backing Sana Satrai was a well-known sister-obsessed demon king, wasn't it? He had no intention of reenacting the cliché 3-year agreement drama, fighting the younger sister only to end up challenging the older sister. Sana blinked in surprise, clearly not expecting Lynn to agree so readily, nor for the process to be this easy. An engagement with the Satrai family was not something just anyone could obtain. In the underworld, anyone who had the opportunity to be engaged to the Satrai family would never let go of such a chance so easily. Especially a fallen noble house like Valifor, which only had one heir left. If Lynn successfully married into the Satrai family, he might have had a shot at rebuilding his clan. Yet, the man in front of her agreed to the annulment without hesitation? This wasn't at all what she had expected before coming here. What she didn't know was that, as a half-blood devil, Lynn had always been treated like heir within the Valifor household. Moreover, he had been exiled to the human world when he was only 7, he had no emotional ties to the Valifor family at all. The thought of using the Satrai family's power to restore the Valifor name never even crossed his mind. Rias, observing from the side, was also surprised. She hadn't expected Lynn to be so easy to talk to. "So, what's the next step?" Lynn didn't care about their reactions. "Do we need to sign an official agreement to nullify the engagement, or?" He picked up the parchment. "Can I just tear this up?" Rias coughed and whispered, "The contract is acknowledged by the 4 great Mo of the underworld. Unless you have more power than the 4 demon kings, you won't be able to destroy it." Lynn silently put the contract back down. "All right, let's talk about drafting an annulment agreement instead." Rias pursed her lips, trying not to laugh. "This Lynn is pretty interesting." Black hair and red eyes, his presence carried an air of nobility. Sana's unexpected fiancé, though he might not be particularly strong, he was far better than the Phoenix. But when she thought about her own arranged marriage, she suddenly couldn't laugh anymore. Meanwhile, Sana's thoughts were in complete disarray. Lynn's straightforward, unexpected approach had thrown her off completely. She hadn't anticipated that Lynn would immediately agree to break off the engagement. Her initial plan was to use a rating game as a formal excuse to settle it. But now, Lynn's reaction made that plan feel ridiculous. After hearing his words, she subconsciously muttered, "Ah. I didn't prepare an annulment contract." Lynn sighed. "You're seriously unprepared for cancelling an engagement? There's a print shop downstairs, go get one printed and bring it up." "Ah, okay." Sana instinctively stood up. "No." She shook her head and sat down again. Lynn raised an eyebrow, puzzled. Sana took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I'm sorry. Our situation is complicated. A written annulment won't work." She explained, "This visit is my personal decision, my family doesn't support cancelling the engagement. So, even if we draft an annulment contract, the Four Great Mo won't recognize it." Hearing this, Sana sighed internally. She knew why her family refused to break off the engagement. During the Underworld's civil war, the Valifor family had contributed greatly to securing her sister's position as one of the Four Great Mo. This engagement had been part of that arrangement. But a few years ago, the entire Valifor family was destroyed overnight. This not only humiliated the Citri family but also disrespected the Four Great Mo. If the Citri family publicly cancelled the engagement now, their reputation would take a massive hit. So, she could only settle this herself. "So," Sana said seriously, "please duel me in a rating game." Lynn's expression turned cold as he interrupted Sana. "You should know the reason for the Valifor family's destruction." Sana's body stiffened. After a brief hesitation, she answered, "The revenge of the old Mo faction." Lynn continued, "Then do you understand what will happen if my surname is exposed?" Sana's heart trembled. A single answer surfaced in her mind. "Death." Lynn crossed his legs and spoke indifferently, "You're the type of person who only thinks about yourself." I. Sana looked shaken. "You only care about your own concerns. You're only focused on your own problems. You only..." The air in the room grew oppressively heavy. Sana felt as if something was pressing down on her, making it difficult to breathe. Suddenly. Crack. The sharp sound of a soda can opening broke the tension. Lynn shifted his gaze, and Sana's suffocating pressure instantly eased. Rias had cracked open the can of cola and was smiling at Lynn. "I've never had carbonated drinks before, but I suddenly feel like trying one." She took a sip. The next moment, her tongue flicked out slightly, and she made a face. "Ah! I really can't get used to it." Setting the can down, Rias turned to Sana. "Sana, if you're done here, it's my turn now." Hearing this, Sana felt as if she had been rescued. She quickly stood up. "I apologize for my rudeness." Without looking back at Lynn, she hurriedly left the room, head lowered the entire time. Seeing this, Rias shook her head and chuckled. She had known Sana for years, but this was the first time she had seen her act like that. As the entrance door closed behind Sana, Rias turned back to Lynn and said apologetically, "Sorry, Sana didn't properly consider how to handle the annulment process." Lynn simply acknowledged it with a neutral accepting the apology without further comment. Then, he asked, "Miss Rias, is there anything else?" "Just call me Rias." Correcting his formality, Rias casually waved her hand above the table. In an instant, a purple magic circle materialized out of thin air. The next moment, a chess set appeared on the table. Lynn's eyes flickered slightly. Although he was a devil and possessed magic power, he lacked the resources or training necessary to wield it with such precision. He carefully observed the runes inscribed in the magic circle, analyzing their structure until the magic dissipated. Only then did he shift his attention to the chess set before him. "I wonder, Lin-kun, have you heard of the evil pieces?" "I know a little." Rias smiled. "That makes things easier." After giving him a brief explanation of the evil pieces and their role in reincarnating devils, Rias continued, "Because the Valifor family is nearly extinct, the Four Great Mo have entrusted me with this set of evil pieces to deliver to you. I hope that you will make good use of them, to form your own peerage and rebuild the Valifor name." Having explained everything, Rias prepared to leave. Before she walked out, she exchanged contact information with Lynn, mentioning that he could reach out to her if needed. Lynn didn't hesitate to accept. After all, he had long envied those who could manipulate magic with such precision. "Evil pieces, hi." Lynn glanced at the chess set on the table but wasn't particularly excited. If he had received these pieces just a few days ago, he might have been thrilled. But now, things were different. He focused his thoughts, and a status panel appeared before him. Lynn Valifor. Race, Devil. Level, Mid-rank Devil. Power, none. Peerage, none. Skills, Evil Pieces, Devil Summoning, Magic Release. Lynn's gaze landed on Evil Pieces and Devil Summoning. Evil Pieces allowed him to create chess pieces similar to the Evil Pieces Rias had given him. The function was the same, it enabled non-devils to be reincarnated as devils and become his subordinates. However, unlike the standard evil pieces used in the underworld, his pieces had additional effects. Not only did they offer a chance to create special devils, but they also granted a system of blessings that could enhance his subordinates' abilities over time. Furthermore, he could receive power feedback from his followers, strengthening himself as his peerage grew. Devil's summoning was a skill that allowed him to issue contracts across different worlds. As long as someone accepted his summoning request, he could traverse worlds to meet them. However, Lynn hadn't had the opportunity to use these skills yet. After all, who in their right mind would trust a mysterious stranger who suddenly appeared and asked, "Want to become my servant?" That would sound way too much like a Chuyunibia roleplay. Not to mention, not everyone could withstand the evil piece effects, even the weakest pawn piece required certain qualifications. The beginning is always the hardest. Still, with these two abilities, Lynn had the potential to rise to the top of this world. BZZZT BZZZT BZZZT. Just as he was thinking about how to recruit his first follower, his phone suddenly vibrated. Caller ID, Nanami Aoyama. Lynn's eyes widened. Aoyama-san. And then. Oh no. My half-price bento. Chapter 2, Just a Devil's Lazy Mind. Yutaha Academy. Occult Research Club. Rias and Sana sat across from each other. After some time, Sana had finally calmed down. She adjusted her glasses and spoke in a low voice, "Rias, I was wrong this time." Sana. Rias wanted to console her, but Sana cut her off. "Just like he." Lynn said. A complicated look flashed in Sana's eyes as she continued, I was only thinking about myself. I never even considered his situation." Rias remained silent for a moment before taking a sip of black tea. Then, she chuckled softly. "This is the Sana I know." When others made mistakes, she never hesitated to call them out. But when she was the one at fault, she admitted it without excuses. Sana also took a sip of her tea, regaining her usual composed demeanor. "What about your engagement?" Rias asked curiously. This attempt to annul the engagement had been a complete failure. Although Lynn hadn't resisted the annulment, he had even been quite cooperative. The outcome was clear. Sana hesitated for a moment before replying, "Forget the rating game. That would only expose him to the old Mo faction's attention. I'll try to convince my family." Rias could hear the determination in her voice and teased, "Honestly, Lynn isn't bad. Why not just keep things the way they are?" Seeing Sana fall silent, Rias, who knew her well, was immediately taken aback. "Wait, are you actually considering it?" "My first impression of him wasn't bad." Sana admitted honestly, "If convincing my family doesn't work, I'll try to develop feelings for him." Rias' eyes widened in shock. Something was off. Something was very off. Lynn's indifferent gaze and his cold, piercing words from earlier flashed through her mind. "You're so full of yourself." His. A chill ran down Rias' spine. "Sana, you're not that type, are you?" "That type?" Sana raised an eyebrow, confused. "And no, haha, never mind." Rias laughed nervously, avoiding eye contact. "It should be impossible, right?" Sana frowned but didn't dwell on it. She finished her tea and prepared to leave. "Oh, right." Sana suddenly pulled a keyring from her pocket and placed it on the table. "I don't think his living conditions are very good. The Satrai family owns a property in Minato, Tokyo. This is the key to one of the apartments. If you get the chance, pass it to him for me. Consider it an apology." With that, Sana activated a magic circle and disappeared. Rias opened her mouth, hesitated, then swallowed back the words she wanted to say. "Why don't you give it to him yourself?" Yutaha Academy, Student Council Room. A red light flashed briefly, signaling Sana's return. Tsubaki, her queen and closest subordinate, turned toward her. "President, welcome back. I need a bath," Sana stated. "Understood. And? I need to wash my clothes." "Yes, President. Wait. I'll wash my panties myself." Thanks for the help, Aoyama. I'll treat you to ice cream next time." Carrying the half-price bento he had successfully snatched, Lynn left the convenience store in triumph. By now, the sky had darkened. Holding the plastic bag in one hand, he idly twirled a black chess piece in the other. Aoyama has the qualifications to be reincarnated as a devil. Unfortunately, she's not too keen on me putting this thing inside her. Lynn sighed in disappointment. Suddenly. "Can you see me?" A grotesque, long-tongued cursed spirit blocked Lynn's path, its sticky saliva dripping onto the ground, corroding the asphalt with a sharp sizzle. Lynn gave it a bored look. The cursed spirit, noticing his reaction, shrieked wildly. "You can see me! You must be able to see me! You!" Before it could pounce, a sudden burst of red flames engulfed its body. In the blink of an eye, it was reduced to ashes. You've got the wrong person, Lynn muttered. I'm not a normal human. I'm a devil. As his gaze swept across the area, the surrounding cursed spirits instinctively recoiled, trembling in fear. Lynn sighed and ignored them. There were too many of these low-level creatures. He couldn't be bothered to exterminate them all. However, with everything that had happened recently, he had finally figured out where he was. A chaotic fusion of multiple anime worlds. For example, his identity? The last remaining bloodline of the Valifor family, a devil from the underworld. His school? A first-year student at Shuchen Academy. His campus? It even had a Totsuki culinary department. Oh, and that convenience store girl? Nanami Aoyama. And now, judging by the sheer number of cursed spirits infesting the streets, there's probably a Yatsuya Miko somewhere in this world too. Lin suddenly stopped, his gaze sharpening. On his status panel, his demonic chess skill flickered slightly. This was one of its effects. Whenever someone qualified to become a part of his peerage was nearby, the skill would notify him. Lin immediately released his magic power to scan the area. After a few seconds, his eyes gleamed. Found one. Confirming the direction, Lin swiftly moved. At the moment, his peerage was empty, and his current strength wasn't enough to stand at the top of this world. Recruiting strong subordinates was his highest priority. Right now, someone nearby was being hunted. By a devil. Yes, a devil. But not every devil followed the rules of the human world like he did. Of course, it could also be a stray devil. Through his perception, he estimated that the enemy was only a low-rank devil, no threat to him, someone on the verge of reaching high rank. Dash. Ha, ha, ha. The sound of ragged breathing echoed in the empty alley. Kazumajayaka Yutaha gritted her teeth, forcing her exhausted legs to keep moving. Her black stockings were torn, her legs scraped, but she didn't care. She only had one thought. Run. Faster. She could feel it. The thing chasing her wasn't in a rush. It was toying with her. Enjoying the hunt. She didn't know if she could survive. But she knew that if she stopped running, she would die. So faster. Bam. She collided into something warm, but there was no comfort, only dread. Her mind went blank. It's over. You look like you could use some help. Just look like. Gasping for breath, Kazumajayaka Yutaha looked up. A handsome face entered her vision, but she had no time to process it. Run. There's a monster behind us. The impact had drained the last of her strength. If she weren't leaning entirely against the boy in front of her, she would have collapsed. She couldn't run anymore. But he still could. Monster? You mean that? Lin gestured behind her and instinctively pulled her into his arms to keep her from falling. Yutaha turned her head. A naked woman with the lower body of a spider was staring at her, drooling. Swallowing hard, Yutaha gave a bitter smile. It's too close. Looks like you won't be able to escape either. Escape? Lin smirked. Why would I run? It's just a low-class stray devil. Chapter 3, Let me put this inside y'all. Low-class stray devil? Is that what this monster is called? Wait. Yutaha snapped out of her thoughts and quickly asked, you know what kind of monster this is? Lin responded with a simple Hope flashed in Yutaha's eyes. Could he be a devil hunter? If something like a low-rank devil exists, then it wouldn't be strange for a devil hunter to appear, right? That must be it. Yutaha unconsciously nodded to herself. Lin glanced at her, somewhat baffled by her thoughts. Checking his status panel, he confirmed that she had the qualifications to become a member of his peerage. Despite looking like an ordinary person, as a main character in an anime setting, she naturally had some degree of luck. Hey, I'll take care of that thing for you, but how about you promise me something in return? Yutaha froze for a moment before asking, what is it? Lin casually took out an evil piece and said, let me put this inside you. Yutaha's eyes widened in shock, her face turning red with a mix of shame and anger. Are you even a real devil hunter? Devil hunter? Lin looked at her strangely before grinning. No, I'm a devil. Hi. Yutaha's brain shut down. Food. Food. But the low-class devil behind them wasn't interested in their conversation. The stench of decay thickened in the air, pressing down on them. In a panic, Yutaha hurriedly shouted, okay. I promise. Then, the contract is established. Lin raised his arm. A surge of magic power erupted. Boom. A red cyclone spiraled from Lin's right arm, condensing into a blinding crimson beam that instantly engulfed the monstrous spider-like devil. The shockwave from the magic blast sent a gust of wind tearing through the alley, whipping Yutaha's long black hair around wildly. Ah! A piercing scream echoed from within the red light before fading into nothingness. A few seconds later, the glow vanished, and Lin lowered his arm. Yutaha's lips trembled. Just now. Basic magic release. Gulp. Yutaha swallowed hard. Was this still Earth? What about that spider monster? Dead. If you're lucky, maybe there's something left of it. Yutaha exhaled in relief only to realize she had let her guard down too soon. Now, let's talk about our deal. Lynn held up the evil piece, casually shaking it in front of her. Yutaha immediately tensed up, instinctively crossing her arms in front of her chest. Are you, seriously going through with this? Of course. We devils pride ourselves on our contracts. Hee hee. Her lips twitched. Could she run? For a brief moment, she considered it. But then she recalled what had just happened, the overwhelming power gap between them, and instantly gave up on the idea. There was no escape. Resigning herself to her fate, she shut her eyes and braced herself. Just think of it as a mosquito bite. But at least it's better than getting eaten by that thing. Damn it. My first time is going to a chess piece. Speaking of which, he is kind of handsome. Even as complaints filled her mind, she couldn't help sneaking a glance at him. Wait. Her eyes suddenly widened in alarm. Why are you unbuttoning my shirt? She shot him a fierce glare, her wine-red eyes filled with rage. I knew it. A devil like you wouldn't be satisfied with just a game prop. Wait, where are you trying to put that thing? You got the wrong spot. Did I? Lynn ignored her protests. A glowing red ripple spread across her chest, absorbing the evil piece into her body. Lynn's expression flickered with surprise. It actually went in. Yutaha's voice trembled. Lynn scratched his head. I mean, probably. Probably. She stared at him in disbelief, as if looking at an irresponsible scumbag. Lynn shrugged. Hey, it's my first time too. I don't have any experience with this. Boom. Boom boom. Yutaha's body froze. Her heartbeat pounded violently as heat surged through her veins. A flood of power erupted from deep within. What now? She gasped. Probably, your reincarnation ceremony. Probably again. Ding. Congratulations, you have obtained a new peerage member, Kashomajayaka Yutaha. Ding. Your peerage member, Kashomajayaka Yutaha, is undergoing the reincarnation ceremony. Ding. Your peerage member, Kashomajayaka Yutaha, has successfully reincarnated as a special demon, Archivist Devil. Ding. You have acquired the skill, Archivist Devil. Archivist Devil? Lynn's eyes lit up, it seemed like a special type of devil. And the moment Yutaha became part of his peerage, his physical fitness and magic power experienced a significant boost. It felt as if he had hit a critical threshold, and now, he had smoothly advanced to the level of a high-class devil. As the transformation on Yutaha's side was still ongoing, Lynn opened his status panel. Lynn Valafor. Race, Devil. Rank, High-Class Devil. Abilities, None. Peerage Member, Kashomajayaka Yutaha. Skills, Evil Pieces, Devil's Summoning, Magic Release, Archivist Devil. Lynn confirmed his rank before shifting his focus to the newly acquired Archivist Devil skill. Archivist Devil. The Devil Tome can record magic, mystical arts, and other abilities, allowing them to be cast through the tome. The more detailed the recorded information, the more complete the ability. Devil Transformation, the body and Devil Tome become one, enabling the user to wield everything inscribed within. Accelerated Magic Growth. This skill seems to have serious potential. Lynn carefully examined the ability description and immediately recognized its immense value. On the other side, Yutaha's reincarnation ritual had just concluded. She stared blankly at a floating book in front of her. The tome was jet black, possessing an iron-like texture and appearing quite thick. The Devil Tome. Lynn responded casually. Devil Tome. Hold on a second. Lynn took the tome from her hands. As the master of Yutaha and the one possessing the Archivist Devil skill, her Devil Tome was linked to his own. Opening a blank page, he took a pen from his pocket, stared at Yutaha's chest for a moment, then lowered his head and started writing. Yutaha's cheeks flushed as she suddenly remembered, she was still in the middle of adjusting her clothing from the transformation. Hurriedly fixing her attire, she glanced around in mild panic. When she confirmed that no one else was present, she exhaled in relief. As for Lynn? Well, he probably wasn't human anyway. At this point, what hadn't he already seen? Yutaha muttered internally. All right, done. Lynn finished writing and handed the Devil Tome back to her. Yutaha took it curiously and flipped it open. Kashomajayaka Yutaha. Rank, Low-Class Devil. Race, Devil. Master, Lynn Valafor. Stats. Strength, I0. Agility, I0. Durability, I0. Magic Power, I0. Inherent Ability. Archivist Devil. The Devil Tome can record magic, mystical arts, and other abilities, allowing them to be cast through the tome. The recorded abilities are stored within the tome. The more detailed the information, the more complete the ability. Devil transformation, the body and devil tome become one, enabling the user to wield everything inscribed within it. Accelerated magic growth. Staring at her own stats, Yutaha's voice carried a complicated emotion. So, I'm not human anymore. Congratulations, the procedure was a success. Yutaha shot a glare at her master for his sarcastic remark before sighing helplessly. What could she do now? At the very least, it didn't feel bad. She wasn't disfigured, nor did she end up with a grotesque appearance like the female devil she had seen before. And more importantly, clenching her fist, she could feel power coursing through her body. This devil tome. A supernatural ability that only existed in fiction. The benefits were undeniable, and she quickly came to terms with her new existence, perhaps even looking forward to testing her abilities. But first, what do the I0 values next to my strength and agility mean? Lynn explained, those are your stat values. While slightly different from the Fauna system in Danmaki, the fundamental logic was similar. The stat values were ranked from I to S, with each rank divided into increments of 0 to 99, 100 to 199, and so on. The S rank ranged from 900 to 999. Beyond S rank, there existed SS rank and SSS rank, which broke standard limitations. Lynn's upgrade system was akin to this, with a few differences, like the lack of a magic skill slot or developmental abilities. After a brief explanation, Yutaha nodded in understanding. She knew what that meant. To level up she had to kill monsters. So, where do we go to grind EXP first? Her eyes flickered with anticipation. Supernatural power. Who could resist the temptation? She was ready, find a monster and start hunting. Maybe over there. Lynn pointed toward the alleyway in the distance. The magic surge from earlier had completely evaporated the cursed spirits lurking in the shadows. However, such dark places were always prime real estate for malevolent spirits. Now, with the original inhabitants gone, the alley had become a free-for-all for wandering cursed spirits. Yutaha followed his gaze, and her face immediately twitched. What the hell are those? She stared at the grotesque creatures, some with elongated tongues dragging on the ground, and felt an involuntary shiver run down her spine. They're ghosts, right? Those are ghosts. Lynn corrected her, to be precise, they're called cursed spirits. Cursed spirits. They were ghosts. Without hesitation, Yutaha took a step back and instantly hid behind Lynn. Lynn sighed. Didn't you want to level up? Grabbing her by the wrist, he pulled her out from behind him. I am not ready yet. Can you see them? Yes. Then that means they can see you too. Yutaha stiffened. At that moment, the spirits turned their attention to her, their eerie, twisted smiles growing wider. Oh yeah, they definitely see you now. Lynn struggled to pry his arm free from Yutaha's tight grip, giving her an encouraging smile before mercilessly pushing her forward. Go get Yutaha. Chapter 5, Let's go to your place. Yutaha's eyes widened in disbelief. Lynn, this devil. He actually pushed her, a beautiful girl, straight into danger without hesitation, leaving her alone to face the cursed spirit. She wanted to curse at him. But as the cursed spirit lunged closer, her heart tightened, and there was no time to complain. What do I do? Think. That's right. The devil tome. She was an archivist devil now. How could a mere cursed spirit intimidate her? With newfound confidence, Yutaha quickly opened the devil tome, preparing for battle. Snap. She shut it just as fast. The pristine white pages made her despair. She had only just reincarnated as an archivist devil, there wasn't a single recorded ability yet. You can see it. The cursed spirit's guttural roar echoed closer. Its rancid breath blew against her face, sending shivers down her spine as her long black hair fluttered. Her mind went blank. Don't come any closer. Acting purely on instinct, Yutaha swung the demonic tome in desperation. Boom. A powerful gust of wind tore through the alley. It wasn't a casual swing, it was a full-force strike. Even Yutaha herself was momentarily stunned. The cursed spirit? Gone. Dash. Lynn, watching from the sidelines, smirked. Yutaha exhaled in relief and turned to glare at him with resentment. Lynn, however, showed no guilt whatsoever. What a joke. As a peerage member, wasn't it her duty to level up and support her master? Besides, he wouldn't have let her die. This cursed spirit was weak, even if Yutaha just stood still, it likely wouldn't have even scratched her defense. After all, she was a low-class devil now. How do you feel? Yutaha shot him a glare, took a deep breath, and composed herself. Then, with practiced calm, she said. Not bad. Lynn chuckled. If he hadn't seen her flailing moments ago, he might have believed her. Since it's not bad, let's keep going. Hi. Yutaha blinked in disbelief. Just kidding. She gave him a deadpan look. That wasn't funny. Ignoring her complaints, Lynn continued, get used to it for today. We'll start serious monster hunting tomorrow. Yutaha's expression twitched, but she remained silent. Seeing that she had no more objections, Lynn turned and walked out of the alley. Yutaha instinctively followed. Once they stepped onto the street, Lynn tilted his chin forward, motioning ahead. Don't you want to get stronger? Yutaha looked up. And immediately regretted it. Everywhere on sidewalks, street corners, alleys, cursed spirits loomed. Some stood. Others squatted. But they all asked the same chilling question to passing pedestrians. Can you see it? Yutaha's lips parted, but she found herself speechless. After a long silence, she finally muttered. Has Nippon fallen? So many cursed spirits. It was worse than she imagined. These ones, just like the one you killed, are merely low-level cursed spirits, Lynn explained. Low-level. Yutaha clenched her fists. She understood what he meant. Low-level meant there were stronger ones. And more importantly, she had no other choice. She was now a devil. And she had a master. Closing her eyes for a moment, she took a deep breath. When she reopened them, her gaze was steady and resolute. I understand. She turned to Lynn and spoke firmly. Make me stronger, Lynn. Lynn raised a brow, amused. What should you call me now? Yutaha paused, then narrowed her eyes at him. Perverted master. Lynn mulled it over. Not bad. It had a certain charm to it. Smirking, he pulled out his phone. Here, add me online. It'll be easier to stay in touch. Yutaha frowned slightly. Sigma man. A moment later. Kazuma Jayaka Yutaha has entered the group chat. Yutaha glanced at the group name and immediately stiffened. What is this? Our peerage group chat. I understand that. But why is it called this? Holding up her phone, she pointed at the group title. Lynn's peerage harem group. Lynn tilted his head. Isn't it accurate? Yutaha stared at him, utterly speechless. Was this guy serious? Lynn then added, don't worry. You're my first peerage member, so right now, you still have me all to yourself. Consider it a perk for being first. Who the hell wants that kind of perk? Yutaha felt like she was running out of energy to complain today. Still. Lynn was right about one thing. She was his first peerage member. If more joined in the future, she would automatically hold seniority. And if a harem war broke out, she would be at an advantage. The thought made her lips curl slightly. Wait. What the hell am I thinking? Yutaha quickly shook her head, banishing the ridiculous notion. It's all because of that stupid group chat name. Dash. After exchanging contact info, Lynn stretched. Alright. It's late. Let's go home. Yutaha hesitated, glancing at the cursed spirits littering the streets. What about them? Don't worry. As long as you pretend not to see them, they won't attack. Yutaha blinked in realization. So that's why normal people don't get attacked. It made sense now. That explained why, despite the sheer number of cursed spirits, the pedestrians walked by completely unaware. Thinking back, before she became a devil, she couldn't see these things either. But now that she knew they were always there, a chill ran down her spine. Especially when she noticed some particularly nasty spirits clinging onto people's heads. Goosebumps. If you're still nervous, I can walk you home. Consider it another first peerage member benefit. Lynn thought about it, he was indeed a bit worried about Yutaha going alone. Even though she was now a low-class devil, she was a special type, an archivist devil, reincarnated with unique abilities. But this was still her first day experiencing the supernatural. Her mindset was still human. She lacked combat experience. If something unexpected happened, she might not be able to handle it. Before Lynn could press further, Yutaha spoke up. No need. Lynn raised a brow. Before he could question it, she added. Let's go to your place. Lynn. Don't get me wrong, I just feel safer around you. Yutaha crossed her arms, her eyes constantly scanning the cursed spirits lurking nearby. She didn't feel safe at all. She had carefully considered her decision. First, after entering high school, she had chosen to live on her own. Second, she never believed her home was free of evil spirits. Rather than going back and sharing a space with them, it was far better to stay with Lynn. At least here, she felt secure. Well, it was also pleasing to the eye. Thinking of this, Yutaha couldn't help but steal a glance at Lynn. If she didn't know he was an actual devil, she might have mistaken him for some noble heir. Wait. Maybe he really was a noble among devils? That's all. Lynn looked disappointed. Yutaha's eyelids twitched. No, this guy, with his head full of ridiculous thoughts, was definitely not a noble. Then again, most nobles were trash too. Dash. Yutaha slipped into a pair of Lynn's slippers and glanced around his home in surprise. What? Is my place weird? No, just unexpected. Yutaha set her bag down. Earlier, she'd been too busy running for her life and had abandoned it in an alley. After everything was over, she had gone back to retrieve it. It's just, you're a devil, yet you live in such an ordinary place. Lynn pulled out 2 cans of Coke from the refrigerator. Devils need money to live in human society too. At that, Lynn let out a sigh. He had come to the human world at the age of 7. Life had been tough. Fortunately, his status as a devil had some advantages. By taking on odd jobs as an exorcist, he had managed to earn a decent living. At the very least, this house was fully his. He popped open a can and handed it to Yutaha. She took it with a quiet thanks and took a sip. Sitting on the sofa, her gaze drifted into the distance. Too much had happened today. The sheer impact of it all left her exhausted. Though her physical fatigue had vanished when she was reincarnated as a devil, her mental exhaustion hadn't lessened in the slightest. She wasn't sure how long she sat there in silence before a sharp ding snapped her back to reality. The bento's ready. When she saw the half-priced convenience store bento on the table, she couldn't help but grumble, so this is the great master's idea of a proper dinner. Do you want it or not? Seeing Lynn offer the bento to her, Yutaha took it without a word and started eating. Judging by how smoothly she handled it, she had clearly eaten this kind of meal a lot. Yet she had the audacity to complain? After finishing her meal, Yutaha finally remembered the real issue at hand. By the way, what exactly are we supposed to do as part of your peerage? Lynn paused before replying, since the peerage is just starting out, your first goal is, of course, to kill monsters, level up, and most importantly make money to support me. Me? Yutaha widened her eyes, pointing at herself, then at Lynn. Support you? She was just a high school girl. Since when was she old enough to be supporting a man? Relax. Once you get stronger, you'll be able to take on exorcism jobs, which will help you level up at the same time. That much was true. Yutaha was successfully convinced. What else could she do? Lynn was now her master in every sense. Even if she protested, it wouldn't change anything. Speaking of getting stronger, Yutaha activated her demonic energy, materializing her devil tome. Are there any magic spells I can learn? She planned to fill this tome with magic. Hitting evil spirits with a book was way too crude for a refined lady. Lynn opened his system panel, glanced at his skill list, and then fell silent. Seeing his reaction, Yutaha suddenly had a very bad feeling. You can't be serious. Lynn shrugged. I came to the human world when I was 7. I never had the chance to learn any magic techniques. Smack. Yutaha slapped her forehead. It was over. It looked like she would have to keep relying on hitting enemies with her tome for now. Don't worry. As a devil, I do have some connections. Well, even if they had just become acquaintances today. Lynn hadn't expected the contact information he had gathered to come in handy so soon. Tomorrow was the weekend. The next day. Yutaha yawned as she walked out of the bedroom and down to the first floor. She found Lynn sitting on the sofa, lost in thought. For a second, she was stunned. Huh? When had there been a man in the house? Wait. She snapped awake, memories of yesterday rushing back. Yo! Black lace. Yutaha instinctively yanked down the hem of her shirt to cover the exposed area. Tisk tisk, Lynn clicked his tongue. Didn't expect you to be wearing something underneath. His gaze swiftly shifted to her upper body, which had become more exposed due to her tugging at the hem. Yutaha quickly crossed her arms to cover her chest, only for the black lace underneath to become visible again. Yutaha! Forget it! Kill him! As she turned back to change clothes, Lynn muttered regretfully, if I had known, I would have bought a smaller house. After getting dressed, Yutaha shot him a cold glare. Did you enjoy the view? Lynn gave her a big thumbs up. A feast for the eyes. Yutaha bit her lip, feeling her ears burn. How the hell was this guy so shamelessly honest? Forget it. Let's go. Destination, Yutsuya Academy. The location of Yutsuya Academy wasn't exactly close to Tokyo Minato. Lynn and Yutaha had to take a train for nearly 2 hours before finally arriving in Yutsuya town. This made Lynn even more envious of the teleportation magic that Rias had demonstrated in the anime. Yutsuya town. Yutaha looked around curiously. So, what exactly is this place you brought me to? A devil family's territory. Huh? Yutaha stopped in her tracks, eyes widening in surprise. A devil family's territory. Her pace suddenly slowed, and she lowered her voice. Is it really okay for us to just walk in like this? Seeing how cautious she was acting, Lynn reassured her, don't worry, I have a good relationship with the people in charge here. Well, probably. That's a relief. Yutaha let out a quiet sigh but still felt a little uneasy. After all, they were devils. So far, besides the spider low-class devil, the only other devil she had encountered was Lynn. I have no idea what other devils are like. Yutsuya Academy gates. A girl with an almost floor-length black ponytail stood quietly near the entrance. The moment she spotted Lynn, her eyes lit up. She quickly walked over, adjusted the hem of her skirt, and greeted him with a smile. You must be Mr. Lynn. I'm Akeno Himejima, a retainer of the president. She sent me to escort you. Sorry to trouble you, Himejima-san. Stare. Yutaha couldn't help but fixate on Akeno, silently muttering to herself. Isn't this figure a little too supermodel-like? She glanced down at herself. Normally, she was quite confident, but in this round, she had lost, no doubt about it. Noticing Yutaha's gaze, Akeno merely responded with a gentle smile, but subtly straightened her back just a little more. Yutaha felt even more depressed. This girl must be Lynn's peerage member. After teasing Yutaha a little, Akeno led the two of them toward the Occult Research Club in the old school building. On the way, she casually introduced various locations within Yutaha Academy to keep the conversation flowing and avoid any awkward silence. Occult Research Club. President, Mr. Lin is here. Rias shook her crimson hair, then stood up from the sofa to greet them. Lin, welcome to Yutaha town. Rias assumed the demeanor of a gracious host and smiled. You're a guest from afar. Have a seat, let's talk. Akeno, prepare some black tea for our guests. Yes, President. As Yutaha sat down, she noticed a petite girl sitting in the corner of the couch. Rias introduced her, this is one of my peerage members, Konako Tujao. She's currently in the middle school division. Hello, Senpais. Konako greeted them in a flat, emotionless voice. Lin took a moment to glance around, quietly admiring the luxurious setting before asking curiously, Rias, do you only have 2 peerage members? Rias hesitated slightly, then tucked her hair behind her ear and smiled. Yes. I focus on quality over quantity, so it's difficult to find suitable members. Lin fell into thought. Kiba Ueto isn't here? That vampire isn't around either? Haven't they joined yet? Or is this because of the so-called butterfly effect? This must be your peerage member. Rias turned her gaze to Yutaha. After all, the evil piece she had given to Lin was used just yesterday. For him to already have a peerage member, they must have had a close connection beforehand. Rias silently assessed her. No sacred gear aura. No signs of combat training. Just an ordinary person. I'm Kazuma Jayaka Yutaha. Yutaha introduced herself calmly, though her eyes lingered on Rias. This dynamic between master and servant. She glanced at Konako. Then, she suddenly felt a sense of relief. Konako. Kitten alert. I already know why you're here. After all, they had discussed it over the phone yesterday. Since Lin had never received formal underworld education on Devil Society, Rias directly pulled out a very thick black book. It was about the size of 2 bricks. Lin's eyelids twitched at the sight of it. This book, 360 Ways to Use Magic, is a general reference for the underworld. It contains information on various common magic techniques. Rias apologized, I'm sorry, but I can only provide this standard compilation. More advanced techniques are the closely guarded secrets of individual devil families. Lin nodded in understanding. This is more than enough. Honestly, just reading through this one book would already take a long time. Fortunately, he had Yutaha. Lin casually pushed 360 Ways to Use Magic toward Yutaha with a grin. I'll leave it to you, Yutaha. A giant question mark appeared over Yutaha's head. She wanted to complain, but considering they were in someone else's territory, she forcibly swallowed her protests. Instead, she stared at the massive book in front of her with a headache. Fortunately, she didn't need to actually understand or learn it. She just needed to record it. Yutaha gritted her teeth. Fine. Copy. After obtaining what he wanted, Lin didn't rush to leave. Instead, he took the opportunity to ask Rias about the current situation in the underworld. For example, the movements of the old Mu faction. Even though Lin wasn't a member of the Valifor family and had no intention of avenging them, simply carrying this surname would inevitably bring trouble. Just like the arranged engagement with the Citrai family. And the old Mu faction's revenge. He had to prepare for the worst. While recruiting peerage members and increasing his strength, he also needed to keep track of their activities. Otherwise, he might end up like his so-called family, completely wiped out without even realizing it was coming. At the core of it all, the real issue was a lack of strength. He needed to speed up his recruitment efforts. At the very least, he needed to reach the level of a Mu as soon as possible. Ever since the Valifor family was wiped out, the underworld has intensified its suppression of the old Mu faction. They haven't shown themselves in quite some time. Rias shared the latest intelligence, but her eyes were focused on Kazuma Jayaka Yutaha, who was writing furiously. That book. It didn't seem to be a sacred gear. It had to be some kind of unique ability. But still. You can take that book home with you, Rias reminded her. It's not exactly classified knowledge. Lynn took a sip of the black tea that Akeno Himejima had brewed and replied casually, "That's fine. I was going to have it copied when I got back anyway." After just a brief period of copying, he had already gained several insights into magic techniques. More importantly, he noticed something interesting. His Archivist Devil ability and Yutaha's seemed to function differently. For example, under normal circumstances, Yutaha could only use recorded abilities through the Devil Tome. But in his case, he seemed to be able to use them directly. It was as if his Archivist Devil state had become permanent. So when my peerage members' abilities are applied to me, they come with added perks. Lynn, caught up in his own thoughts, completely missed Yutaha's resentful glare. Easy for you to say, when you're just sitting there. This book was nearly 2,000 pages long. The realization of her impending suffering made the light in Yutaha's eyes dim. Why did I have to become the Archivist Devil? A deep and heavy resentment filled the air. Rias, noticing her expression, couldn't help but feel a little worried. Is she really okay? Lynn also picked up on Yutaha's growing frustration and chuckled. Then, he turned to Rias and asked. Miss Rias, does this book contain any magic for automatic writing? Yutaha's head snapped up. Her eyes, which had been lifeless just moments ago, now burned with hope as she stared at Rias. Yes, Rias nodded, thinking for a moment before adding, I believe it's around page 130. Swish. The rapid sound of pages turning filled the room. Lynn took another sip of tea, hiding his satisfaction. Truly, he was too kind-hearted. He simply couldn't bear to see his peerage members suffer. Found it! Yutaha exclaimed internally. Seeing this, Rias smiled as well and said. This is a fairly simple spell. If you try learning it now, I can offer some guidance. Yutaha glanced at her before shaking her head slightly. Thank you, but I don't think I'll need any help, Miss Rias. After giving her thanks, she immediately lowered her head and began transcribing the spell into the Devil Tome. Rias blinked in slight confusion. Wasn't the whole point of this spell to make copying easier? Why is she still copying manually? She soon got her answer. Done. Yutaha set her pen down, stretched, and then focused her magic into the demonic tome. Buzz! The Devil Tome suddenly emitted a dazzling glow, a small white magic circle appeared on the page containing the automatic writing spell. A white quill pen materialized in midair. Success! Yutaha cheered inwardly. Real magic! Even though this was just a minor spell, it was still enough to make her excited. This is... Rias narrowed her eyes slightly. It was definitely the automatic writing spell. But had she actually learned it while copying? Or was the real key her ability to copy? Her gaze shifted to the Devil Tome in Yutaha's hands. Rias fell into thought. Moments later, she smiled slightly and said. I didn't expect you to master automatic writing so quickly, Kazumajayaka-san. Lynn's peerage members are truly remarkable. Then, she smoothly changed the topic. If I remember correctly, Lynn's residence is quite far from Yutaha town. There's a teleportation magic on page 777 of that book. Why not learn it now and leave a mark here for easier travel in the future? Her interest had been piqued by Kazumajayaka Yutaha's abilities. She wanted to see whether Yutaha possessed a high aptitude for magic or if she had some special power. While teleportation magic was considered a basic ability in the underworld, its complexity was comparable to the exclusive techniques of high-ranking devil families. Even Rias herself had spent a considerable amount of time mastering it. She highly doubted Yutaha could grasp it so quickly. Lynn immediately saw through Rias's thoughts. But instead of stopping her, he pushed Yutaha forward. Yutaha. Even though they had only been together for a little over a day, Yutaha already understood what Lynn meant. She flipped to page 777. Teleportation magic. The white quill pen immediately began transcribing the spell into the demonic tome. Rias didn't have to wait long. Once the quill stopped, Yutaha acting on Lynn's instruction channeled her magic. Buzz! A massive purple magic circle appeared above the Devil Tome, dozens of times larger than the one before. Its intricate runes pulsed with energy, making it almost dizzying to look at. Yutaha had no idea what the symbols meant. But it didn't matter. She didn't need to understand. That's the power of the Archivist Devil. Rias stared at the teleportation magic circle in a daze. A flicker of disbelief crossed her face. Did she actually learn it? In such a short time? Even Akeno and Konako were drawn in. As members of Rias's peerage, they had also learned teleportation magic and they knew exactly how difficult it was. For someone who had just become a devil, someone who had never been exposed to magic before, to master such a spell in mere moments. If it was purely due to talent, it would be absurd. But clearly, Yutaha hadn't learned it. Rias's gaze landed on the Devil Tome, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. What an interesting ability. Copying, or rather, recording. As long as something is recorded in that book, she can use it. Lynn rested his chin in his hands, smiling. As expected of the heiress of the Gremory family, you figured out her ability so quickly. Allow me to formally introduce you Archivist Devil, Kazumajayaka Yutaha. Rias murmured, Archivist Devil. A fitting title. She took a deep breath before asking tentatively. And what exactly are the limits of this ability? Lynn smirked. I have no idea. Why don't you find out for yourself? So that's why you had Kazumajayaka-san demonstrate her abilities. Rias suddenly realized, then looked at Lynn with a complicated expression. Was this part of his plan all along? Lynn gave her a look that practically said, you figured me out. General skills alone weren't enough to satisfy him. He flipped through the book a few times. There was too much theoretical knowledge, long-winded, repetitive, and dull. The remaining magical abilities were nothing special, just things like automatic writing and illumination. The most valuable one was probably the teleportation magic. As for powerful, large-scale, or highly practical spells, almost none. Since he was here, Lynn naturally wanted to learn something more formidable. So, when he noticed Rias's curiosity about Yutaha's abilities, he simply went with the flow. Might as well try it first. To be honest, Rias had already taken the bait. She really wanted to know the full extent of Archivist Devil Kazumajayaka Yutaha's abilities. Rias sighed helplessly. Alright, you win. Akeno, bring the lightning magic. Yes, President. Akeno didn't hesitate. She never questioned Rias's decisions. Lightning magic. Rias slid a sheepskin scroll toward Lynn. Super tier magic. This is the highest level magic I currently have. Lightning strike. Lynn glanced at Akeno out of the corner of his eye. If he remembered correctly, her specialty was lightning magic, wasn't it? Rias had really taken out her best trump card. Lynn opened the scroll and took a look. And immediately lost interest. He couldn't understand a single thing. Without hesitation, he handed it to Yutaha. You take it, Yutaha. For once, Yutaha didn't snap back. Instead, she eagerly accepted the lightning magic scroll. Whoa! Super tier magic! It sounded incredible. For the first time, Yutaha genuinely admired Lynn. With just a few words, he had convinced Rias to hand over a super tier magic scroll for her. She forced herself to calm down and opened the scroll. The densely packed devil script made her dizzy. She couldn't understand it at all. Fortunately, she had experience from copying teleportation magic earlier, so she'd just copy it again. While waiting, Rias briefly explained super tier magic. In simple terms, any magic capable of matching the power of a Mo is classified as super tier magic. Straightforward and simple. Alright, done. Yutaha stared at the freshly written text in the devil tome, her eyes filled with anticipation. Almost instinctively, she prepared to activate her magic. Wait. Rias's eyes widened, immediately stopping her. Lightning magic is far too powerful. Let's move outside first. Otherwise, her occult research club would be demolished in an instant. Realizing her mistake, Yutaha hesitated. Sorry. Rias shook her head, signaling that it was fine before leading the way out. Dash. The open area behind the club. The devil tome floated in front of Yutaha, its pages turning with a soft rustling sound. Lightning strike! Yutaha called out softly. The pages of the devil tome abruptly stopped. A 1 meter wide, blue magic circle rose into the air. Crackle! Without any delay, a massive column of blue lightning as thick as an oak tree struck the ground. Boom! The impact left a 1 meter wide crater. Lightning snaked across the ground, filling the air with an electric hum. So strong! Yutaha stared at the scene, unable to believe that she had caused it. However, I feel exhausted. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed backward into a firm, warm embrace. Lynn looked down at Yutaha in his arms, briefly assessing her condition. His conclusion, she must have overexerted herself and depleted her magic power. Rias stepped forward. Kazumajayaka-san is still a low-class devil. That spell likely drained all of her magic power. She glanced at Yutaha to ensure she was unharmed, then turned her gaze to the crater in the ground. She actually pulled it off. Although the spell's full power wasn't realized due to her limited strength, its execution was flawless. No price, no cost, just recording the spell's information. And, it seemed like super tier magic wasn't the limit of her Archivist Devil ability. Wasn't this ability a bit too overpowered? Setting her doubts aside, Rias turned to see Yutaha completely drained, collapsed in Lynn's arms. She hesitated before suggesting, Lynn, why don't you replenish her magic? That seems to be the only option. Replenish magic? How? Yutaha barely had the strength to speak. She could only open her eyes weakly to see what method they would use. And then, she saw Lynn's face getting closer. Wait. Was something wrong here? MMPH. Her lips were suddenly sealed by something warm. Her body was getting hotter. And something was flowing into her. Chapter 10, Intense Kissing. The so-called magic replenishment is a method of restoring magical power through the exchange of bodily fluids. Among devils, magic replenishment is considered a reward from a master to their followers. Yutaha felt Lynn's tongue roaming around her mouth like its owner. Why are you, sticking out your tongue like that? Yutaha's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her cheeks were flushed, and she pursed her lips. Her crimson eyes seemed to be focused on Lynn, yet at the same time, they drifted past him, as if staring at the scenery behind him. To maximize the effects of magic replenishment, Lynn responded righteously. He was seriously committed to replenishing magic. It was just that Yutaha had consumed too much magic power, so the replenishment process had to be a little more intense. Oh my, how pure! Akeno, who had witnessed everything, narrowed her eyes and smiled with an amused expression. Yutaha's body stiffened slightly. Just now, she had been completely focused on Lynn and had momentarily forgotten the presence of others. It's over. Had she been surrounded by people this whole time? This was social death. Yutaha nearly exploded with embarrassment internally, but outwardly, she forced herself to remain composed. She took a deep breath, suppressing all her emotions. But her heart was still pounding rapidly. She stole a quick glance at Lynn and murmured, "My first kiss. I let him take it for free. How is she?" Rias asked with concern. "Has Kazumajayaka-san recovered?" Yutaha smiled awkwardly. Rias studied her expression, then smiled knowingly. "It seems that Mr. Lynn's magic replenishment is quite effective." Yutaha froze on the spot. What kind of joke is this? Rias, however, was looking at her with admiration. "I didn't expect Kazumajayaka-san to grasp even super-tier magic so quickly. That's quite the remarkable talent." With such an ability alone, Yutaha had immense potential. Once she fully developed, her strength wouldn't be inferior to Akeno's. Rias was honestly envious of having such a capable peerage member. After hearing this, Yutaha was reminded of what she had just done. She turned to look at the crater left by her previous lightning spell. Yutaha contemplated, the power was decent, but I still feel like it wasn't enough. That was why she had gambled all her magic power on that one attack. Of course. As an expert in lightning-based magic, Akeno explained. The full power of a lightning strike can affect celestial phenomena. With Kazumajayaka-san's current magic reserves, she wouldn't be able to sustain its maximum output. I see. Yutaha nodded in understanding. Indeed. Even though she had managed to execute a super-tier spell, she hadn't fully unleashed its potential. However, this was already a big step forward. Lynn raised a finger, and a flicker of black lightning danced at his fingertip. The moment Yutaha's devil tome recorded the lightning spell, Lynn had simultaneously grasped full control over it. As a high-class devil, lightning magic in his hands could be manipulated in countless ways. For example, this silent thunder. No sound, no visible magical fluctuations. All of its power was tightly compressed into a single strand of black lightning. Only upon impact would it unleash its devastating force. Thus, no one present noticed what Lynn had just done. Except Akeno, whose sensitivity to lightning was exceptionally high. She widened her eyes, staring at the black lightning on Lynn's fingertip with shock. That energy, it felt eerily similar to Rias's power of destruction. Lynn simply smiled at her, then lightly clenched his palm, dispersing the lightning. Seeing this, Akeno smiled as well and looked away. But internally, she was anything but calm. Even though it was black lightning, there was no mistaking it was lightning magic. Its color wasn't the strange part. Although she didn't like to dwell on it, her own bloodline had also tainted her lightning with an unusual hue. What was strange, however, was how quickly Lynn had mastered the spell. Hadn't he only glanced at the scroll for lightning strike twice? Yet the level of control he had just displayed. Even she couldn't achieve that. Lynn Valifor. The sole surviving member of the Valifor bloodline. He was definitely not simple. On the other side. Rias sighed regretfully. It's a pity. Even with super-tier magic, we still couldn't gauge the upper limits of Kazumajayaka-san's abilities. Lynn smiled. It's fine. If you ever want to test again, Rias, feel free to call me anytime. Rias rolled her eyes at him. Forget it. This time, we only put in one super-tier spell. Who knows what kind of magic we'll end up using next time? Tisk, what a waste. Lynn clicked his tongue in disappointment. With the Gremory family's deep foundation, he doubted that a single super-tier spell was all they had to offer. Besides, Rias had a mid-level older brother. Surely, there were plenty of powerful techniques waiting to be borrowed. After practically squeezing every benefit he could out of Rias, Lynn prepared to leave. Before that, Rias arranged for Konako to take them on a tour around Yutaha town. Later, at the arcade. So, why did we end up at an arcade? Yutaha looked at Lynn and Konako in silent disbelief. KO. I lost again. Konako stared at her defeated character on the screen, her expression slightly stunned. Senpai, you're strong. Though her tone was flat, Lynn could tell she was serious. Are you two done playing yet? If we don't hurry, we will miss the last bus back. Yutaha glanced at the time, her right leg tapping impatiently. For some reason, watching Lynn and Konako enjoy themselves irritated her a little. You're right. At Yutaha's urging, Lynn gave up on playing another round. Since he had yet to place a teleportation marker at his home, he still had to rely on the bus to get back. See you next time, when you're free, Konako. Senpai. Konako tugged on Lynn's sleeve and handed him a piece of paper. Please accept this. Lynn glanced at it. A devil summoning contract. Specifically, one exclusive to Konako. Senpai, I want to learn how to fight. Konako looked up at him, her golden eyes full of determination. Lynn glanced at the nearby Street Fighter arcade machine. Got it. This was the kind of fighting she meant. No problem. If you have time, I'll invite you over to my place. After parting ways with Konako, Yutaha crossed her arms and followed beside Lynn. You're calling her by her name. Lynn looked at her oddly. Why do I feel like you're a little jealous? Huh? As if I... Yutaha was about to deny it when her brain suddenly stalled. Wait. She was jealous. Yutaha looked at Lynn, her gaze unconsciously drawn to his thin lips. Damn it. She might be falling for him. But, they had only known each other for 2 days. Memories of the past 2 days flashed through her mind, stopping at the moment of magic replenishment. Her heart pounded. Why are you just standing there? Lynn stopped, waiting for her to catch up. Yutaha collected herself, brushed back her wind-blown hair, and walked forward, linking her arm with his. I admit. I'm a little jealous. Lynn blinked, then grinned. Well, you should control yourself. I'm a devil planning to build a harem. You really are a shameless devil. Occult Research Club. After Lynn and the others left, only Rias and Akeno remained in the club room. Akeno, what do you think? Rias had been pondering Yutaha's ability. Was she a sacred gear user? But there were no signs of a sacred gear's magical fluctuations. As a high-class devil, Rias was confident in her judgment. But could a human really awaken such a powerful ability? As for gaining new abilities after reincarnating as a devil, that possibility hadn't even crossed her mind. Because in all of the underworld, there was no precedent for it. The reincarnation ceremony merely transformed followers into devils, sometimes granting them abilities based on the evil pieces used. At its core, the evil pieces were simply a tool designed to bolster the dwindling devil population. Akeno shook her head. If even you can't figure it out, there's no way I can understand it either. Rias sighed, her voice laced with regret. It would have been amazing if Kazuma Jayaka-san was one of mine. With that kind of ability, I could have trained her to the point where she'd defeat the Phoenix family before that incident even happened. Given the resources of the Gremory family, she had no doubt. Knock knock. Just as Rias was feeling envious of Lynn, someone knocked on the door. Sana? What brings you here? Rias blinked in surprise. Sana glanced around. Has he been here? As sharp as ever, I see. Rias smiled helplessly. Sana spoke matter-of-factly, I am the student council president. Then you must also know when he left, right? Of course. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to come. A slight blush rose to her ears as she sat across from Rias, as if this was a perfectly normal visit. So, what was he doing here? Sana asked, her tone casual. Rias briefly explained Lynn's visit. Sana remained silent for a moment, deep in thought. Then, she suddenly said, I have some water-based magic. Next time, give it to him for me. Rias was silent for a beat before she probed, Sana, don't you think you're a little too concerned about him? He is my fiancé. But, don't you still want to break off the engagement? Sana fell silent for a moment, then swiftly changed the subject. Did you give him the key? Rias's expression froze. Stare. Ah. Sorry. Rias pressed her hands together apologetically. There was just so much going on, I completely forgot. Sana sighed. Then just have him handle the water magic next time. Rias nodded awkwardly, deciding it was best not to tease Sana about how much she cared about Lynn. Tokyo. Lynn's house. Lynn stared at Yutaha's suitcase and suddenly asked, so, this means, we're officially living together. Humph. Yutaha crossed her arms. Having a beautiful girl like me as your housemate, what a blessing for you. On the way back, they had stopped by her apartment to pick up some necessities. Toiletries, clothes, her tablet, and other personal electronics. Oh, and by the way, there had been a cursed spirit in her room. Yutaha casually waved her hand and obliterated it. Now that she had recorded lightning magic in her devil tome, she felt invincible, evil spirits no longer fazed her. That said, she still had zero intention of staying in that lonely rental apartment. After unpacking, Yutaha suddenly looked at Lynn with anticipation. So, it's time for that, right? Yeah. Take it off. Lynn's expression was dead serious. Yutaha hesitated briefly. Then, as if steeling herself, she clenched her teeth, stomped her foot, and slipped off her jacket. You underwear too? Her face burned as she bit her lip. It just needs to be visible. Yutaha exhaled in relief. As long as he could see it clearly, that was fine. This was already her limit any further and. Even so, she still felt incredibly self-conscious. Still, why does it have to be engraved there of all places? For convenience. Lynn recalled, besides, you're the one who asked me to put it. Don't say it. Flustered, Yutaha pressed her hands over his mouth, her glare fierce, her entire face glowing red. This is all because of what you said back then. MMMPH. Lynn raised his hands in surrender. Only then did Yutaha snort in satisfaction and let go. Lynn focused his magic, forcing a single drop of his blood to emerge. As it landed on her back, hidden blessing data was revealed. Kazuma Jayaka Yutaha. Low-class devil. Race, devil. Master, Lynn Valifor. Stats. Strength, I0 rightward arrow I7. Agility, I0 rightward arrow I5. Endurance, I0 rightward arrow I6. Magic, I0 rightward arrow I133. Innate skills. Archivist devil, omitted. A magic increase of over 100, not bad. After offering her some words of encouragement, Lynn copied her status data onto a parchment and handed it to her. Aside from magic, my other stats barely increased. Yutaha sighed, feeling a little discouraged. Lynn's voice was dry. Let me ask you something aside from that one time you smashed an evil spirit with your book, have you ever done any physical training? Yutaha faltered. Come to think of it. No. She hadn't. Lynn simply spread his hands. There was the answer. Other than magic, you should work on raising your other stats too. Yutaha fell into deep thought. If this keeps up, am I just going to become a fragile mage? No way. She had to start training. At the very least, she needed to boost her agility. If she ever encountered an enemy she couldn't beat, at least she'd be able to run. Alright. Let's go find some cursed spirits and grind for experience tonight. Yutaha, brimming with determination, grabbed Lynn and dragged him outside. Lynn didn't dampen her enthusiasm. Weak as she was, her blessing renewal had increased his own magic, if only slightly. For a high-class devil like him, it was merely a drop in the bucket. But small gains add up over time. And as the number of his followers grew, even the smallest improvements would amount to something massive in the long run. Dash. Late at night, an unmarked alley. Thunder. You should be training other abilities too, you know. But, damn it. Devil Tome. Yutaha raised her Devil Tome with both hands. And smacked an evil spirit over the head with it. Devil Tome, seriously? Chapter 12, Supernatural Investigation Club. The next day. Shuchin Private Academy. Club. Yutaha asked in confusion. It was Monday. Lynn and Yutaha arrived at school together. The moment they walked in, they immediately drew the attention of the surrounding students. Isn't that sophomore Kazuma Jayaka-senpai? Why is she with Lynn? No way, are they, together? Yutaha was a well-known figure at Shuchin Academy, admired for her stunning beauty, curvaceous figure, and formidable intellect. Despite frequently dozing off in class, she still maintained top grades. Lynn, though a freshman, had an otherworldly handsome appearance and an air of mystery that instantly captivated the female students across all grades. Seeing the two of them together naturally caused a stir. Neither of them paid any attention to the whispers. Yutaha asked curiously, why are you suddenly interested in starting a club? Rias reminded me, Lynn explained. She said that if I'm forming a peerage, it's best to establish a base in a place I frequent. That way, peerage activities will be more convenient. Yutaha considered this and found it reasonable. Right now, she was the only member of Lynn's peerage, so organizing activities wasn't an issue. Besides, she was already living with him. But once the peerage expanded and members were scattered across different locations, gathering together would become a hassle. They couldn't always meet at Lynn's house, could they? Imagining a house packed with people, Yutaha immediately supported the idea. As expected, she's quite thoughtful. Lynn agreed. His main goal was to recruit more peerage members. Given the supernatural nature of this world, Shuchin Academy undoubtedly had many individuals with the potential to become part of his peerage. Establishing a club would make it easier to bring them together. Have you decided on a name for the club? Lynn thought for a moment before his eyes lit up. How about the service club? Yutaha paused, then gave him a complicated look. I can only say, that suits you too well. Service club? Who were they supposed to be serving? It was obvious. A club formed by a devil and his servants, what name could be more fitting? You agree, then? Hat. Lynn continued, just in case someone already registered the name Service Club, we should have a backup. Yutaha scoffed, who else would name their club something that's suspicious? Still, in a world filled with anime-like occurrences, what if Yukinashita Yukino was also in this school? Alright then, the alternative name will be the Supernatural Investigation Club. That's just copying Rias and the others. Lynn frowned. Should we think of another one? What if something supernatural actually? No need. Yutaha stopped him before he could continue. Just the Service Club is fine. No one else would choose such a weird name. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Faculty office. Hearing the response, Yutaha froze like she had been struck by lightning. You're telling me there's already a service club? She couldn't believe it. That weird and suspicious name actually exists. You think it's strange too, yet you wanted to name your club the same thing, a voice remarked dryly. Behind the desk, Natsuki Minamiya, dressed in her usual gothic Lolita attire, glanced at Kazuma Jayaka Yutaha. Her meaning was clear. Didn't you also want to use that name? Yutaha seemed to read that message from the teacher's blue eyes. Awkwardly, she tapped her toes against the floor. Lynn, however, remained calm. Instead, he gleaned some useful information, so Yukinashita Yukino really does exist in this school. In that case, he said, we'll go with Supernatural Investigation Club instead. That name suits you much better. Natsuki Minamiya stamped the approval form, then reminded them, a club requires at least 3 members to be officially recognized. Make sure you meet the requirements soon, or the school will revoke your club room. Thanks, Natsuki-chan. I told you don't add chan at the end. Natsuki glared at him in annoyance. You're pretty familiar with Minamiya-sensei, huh? Yutaha asked curiously. After all, she was Natsuki Minamiya, the infamous teacher. She was one of my past clients. Client? You mean the exorcism business you mentioned before? Lynn nodded. Yeah. Yutaha suddenly understood. No wonder she said the Supernatural Investigation Club suits you so well. However, she overlooked a crucial point, Natsuki had also considered Service Club as a fitting name. That meant in her mind, Lynn was the kind of person suited for service. After all, Natsuki knew he was a devil. A human magician like her wouldn't be unaware. By the way, there are quite a few cursed spirits roaming the school, Lynn added. Since they were just small fry, there was no need to bother dealing with them. Besides, ordinary people couldn't see them anyway. Lynn pushed open the club room door. A wave of dust hit them in the face. How long has this place been abandoned? Yutaha fanned away the dust, looked around, and nodded. Though it's dirty, the desks and chairs are intact. Yeah, but naturally, there are some unclean things as well. Yutaha turned her gaze toward the corner. A weak, pitiful, and helpless-looking cursed spirit was squatting there, its back turned to her. Lynn had already noticed the small fry of a demon. Then, he announced the first official activity of the Supernatural Investigation Club. Cleaning. And cleaning up the weaklings, too. You're up, Yutaha. I knew it. As if expecting this, Yutaha had already begun moving. At times like these, magic was the best solution. The classroom door shut. A bright white light swept across the Supernatural Investigation Club. Magic cleanse. In an instant, the entire room became spotless. The small fry of a cursed spirit vanished without a trace. Yutaha sighed in admiration. Magic really is convenient. Sitting down in a freshly cleaned chair, Lynn announced the second club activity. Recruitment. All right, leave it to me. Without needing further instruction, Yutaha naturally took charge. First, we need a recruitment flyer. She flipped open her demonic tome. Magic graffiti. After placing the Supernatural Investigation Club flyer on the recruitment board, Yutaha clapped her hands. All done. Just then, a beautiful black-haired girl nearby was staring at her. Yatsuya Miko. Upon seeing the words Supernatural Investigation Club, she instinctively thought of the evil spirits she frequently encountered. But since even Buddhist beads and shrine visits hadn't helped her, she doubted a mere student club could solve her problem. Shaking her head, she turned to leave. But, hey, would you like to join our club? Yutaha stepped in front of her. You need help, don't you? Yatsuya Miko. IMG, Natsuki Minamiya. Yutaha looked at the timid girl in front of her and smiled meaningfully. Ever since becoming a devil, she had become more sensitive to certain things. If one observed this girl carefully, they would notice that whenever her eyes landed on a cursed spirit, her body would stiffen unnaturally. This girl could see them. Yutaha reached a conclusion. Being able to see cursed spirits, she was definitely a special talent. She might just be the peerage member Lynn needed. This person had to be brought to Lynn. After becoming a part of Lynn's peerage, while Yutaha still retained her sharp tongue, she quickly embraced her role. Since Lynn needed to develop his peerage, she would naturally do her best to help him. How about it? Want to come take a look? Yutaha invited Yatsuya Miko. Yatsuya Miko hesitated. Her instincts told her that this so-called supernatural investigation club was no different from the shrines she had visited before, ultimately incapable of solving her problem. But Yutaha's words earlier lingered in her mind. You should need help now, right? Why did she say that? Did she see something? Yutaha saw her hesitation and knew she had her. When someone hesitated, it just meant they needed a little push. Without giving her time to refuse, Yutaha grabbed Miko's arm and made the decision for her. Alright, let's go. Swish. The door to the Supernatural Investigation Club swung open. Master, I've brought someone back. Yutaha stepped aside, revealing Miko behind her. Miko timidly scanned the classroom before letting out a sigh of relief. A pure land. A space without cursed spirits. Lynn took one look at Miko and immediately knew today, he would gain another peerage member. Well done, Yutaha. Oh. Yutaha raised an eyebrow. What's my reward? How about a magic replenisher? The moment she heard those words, Yutaha's face flushed, and she was reminded of a certain past event. However, instead of rejecting the offer, she simply said, then hold on to it for now. I'll come collect it when I need it. Lynn looked at her in surprise. Why did it feel like Yutaha had become bolder since joining him? But Miko was still waiting, so he didn't dwell on it. Instead, he took out a form and said, Yatsuya-san, please fill this out first. Miko was taken aback. You know me? Of course. Lynn could see the girl. But he didn't explain further. Miko hesitantly sat down and took the form. Now that she was here, there wasn't much she could do. Except application form for joining the Supernatural Investigation Club. She froze. She never said she wanted to join the club. Miko struggled to find the right words to refuse when she suddenly heard Lynn whisper. Yatsuya-san, you can see them, right? Hi? Ha 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 ha. Miko's body tensed up instantly, and her pupils trembled violently. Was this handsome boy in front of her actually a disguised evil spirit? Was this so-called supernatural investigation club just a trap set up by the evil spirit to deceive her? Her eyes teared up, and her expression became pitiful, as if she were about to cry at any moment. Even her thighs trembled uncontrollably, and it felt like something might leak out. She wanted to pretend not to see anything like usual. But she was still holding the application form she had just received. It was over. Miko, am probably about to be eaten. Lynn looked at Miko with a strange expression. Even Yutaha couldn't help but glance at Miko's trembling thighs. Sometimes, the devil's sense of smell was truly too sensitive. She peed herself. She actually peed herself. Lynn and Yutaha exchanged glances, momentarily speechless. Don't worry, Yatsuya-san. We're not cursed spirits. But Miko wasn't listening anymore. Or rather, she didn't dare to listen to Lynn. If he claimed not to be an evil spirit, did that make it true? She had seen plenty of evil spirits capable of disguising themselves. Maybe you don't recognize me, but you've definitely heard of Kazumajayaka Yutaha, right? Kazumajayaka Yutaha? Miko was stunned. Now that she thought about it, she did find her familiar when they met earlier. The famous Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty. Yutaha's eyelids twitched slightly, and her toes curled involuntarily. Hearing that nickname directly in front of her was a little embarrassing. Oh no. She had said it out loud by accident. Miko cautiously glanced at Lynn and Yutaha, then let out a breath of relief when she saw that neither of them had transformed into something inhuman. Maybe, this really was a misunderstanding? If they were evil spirits, she would have been eaten by now. Or at the very least, the moment she stepped inside. Calming down slightly, Miko replayed the events in her mind. But she still couldn't help but whisper, "You're really not an evil spirit?" "Of course not." Lynn gave her a firm answer. Seeing this, Miko finally started to relax. "We're devils. Why would we ever be trash like cursed spirits? Devils?" Miko's body, which had just relaxed, instantly stiffened again. Her voice cracked, and she sounded like she was about to cry. Isn't that even worse? Chapter 14, Cowardly Miko. Insidious, cunning, terrifying, evil. Manipulating people's hearts, bewitching them, and tormenting humans for amusement. The source of disasters. This was Miko's perception of devils. When Lynn said they were devils, Miko didn't doubt for a second that he was simply trying to scare her. As someone who had seen the true side of the world, she knew that if evil spirits existed, then the existence of devils was perfectly reasonable. Alright, Lynn, stop scaring her. Seeing Miko trembling, Yutaha worried that Lynn might end up traumatizing her. Miko swore this was the most beautiful voice she had ever heard in her life. As expected, they were just trying to frighten her. Devils and the like, of course, they weren't real. Letting out a sigh of relief, she sent a grateful glance toward Kazumajayaka Yutaha. Lynn shrugged. Fine. Then, how about joining the Supernatural Investigation Club? Miko hesitated, staring at the application form in her hands. She had no intention of joining the club when she first arrived. But there was something she couldn't ignore. Yatsuya-san, you can see them, right? That sentence alone weighed heavily on her mind. Lynn introduced himself casually. Just call me Lynn. Like you, I'm a freshman at Shuchen. Okay, Lynn. Miko nodded, then cautiously asked, Lynn, can you see them too? Of course. Lynn nodded without hesitation. Otherwise, what do you think the Supernatural Investigation Club is for? So it was true. Miko's eyes lit up. She had finally found someone who understood. She had finally found hope. She anxiously asked, then, does Lynn have a way to deal with them? If she ever got discovered, something terrible could happen. She couldn't stand living like this any longer. A way to deal with them. Yes. Miko nodded vigorously, her eyes filled with expectation. Lynn smiled. Of course I do. Yes. Miko's heart surged with joy. Finally. Finally. Without hesitation, she stood up and bowed deeply. Please. Please let me return to an ordinary life. Wouldn't it be easier to just kill them? Lynn and Yutaha spoke at the same time. A brief silence filled the Supernatural Investigation Club. Lynn looked at Miko in disbelief. As expected of Yatsuya, timid cowardly Miko. After a few seconds, Miko slowly raised her head, her expression blank. Kill. She stammered. The evil spirits? She was supposed to kill them? No, no, no. That was impossible. She absolutely could not do that. Same thing, Lynn said calmly, then asked, so, Yatsuya-san, do you want to join the Supernatural Investigation Club? Do you want to become my peerage member? Miko fell silent for a moment before whispering, if I join the club, can I really kill evil spirits? Of course. Lynn's answer was firm. Could it really be done? Miko was doubtful. She had never seen an evil spirit get exorcised before. But she had no other options. Why not believe in Lynn? Like a drowning person grasping at a straw, she didn't want to let go of this chance. Besides, it was just joining a club, there was no downside. She subconsciously ignored the term peerage member, assuming it was just another way of saying club member. Okay. I'll join. Determination filled Miko's gaze. Lynn smiled. Welcome to the Supernatural Investigation Club, Yatsuya-san. By the way. Just as Miko was about to smile, Lynn continued, devils are real. She froze. Then she glared at him. Lynn, stop scaring me. Lynn didn't say anything. He simply grinned. And suddenly, an unnatural movement rippled behind him. With a tearing sound, 2 holes appeared in his school uniform near the waist. A pair of black wings unfurled. Whoosh! A gust of wind surged through the Supernatural Investigation Club. Miko's pupils dilated. A devil. A real devil. When Lynn revealed his wings, her mind completely blanked out. Lynn folded his hands under his chin, his crimson eyes glowing faintly. Yatsuya-san, after seeing my true identity, you can't run away now. If she refused, would she be silenced? Would she? Would she? Tears welled up in Yatsuya Miko's eyes. Her heart screamed internally. Then, at lightning speed, she dropped to her knees, performing the most flawless doxa of her life. With all the knowledge she had accumulated throughout her existence, she shouted. Please command me, Master Devil. Your recruitment method is simple and crude. Yutaha shot Lynn a look. But effective, isn't it? Lynn shrugged and then materialized an evil piece in his hand. All right, choose a spot on your body and place this inside. Yutaha's eyebrows twitched when she saw the evil piece appear. Miko looked up, her expression a mix of tears and despair, and asked in a trembling voice, Master Devil, what is that? A reincarnation ceremony, Lynn explained. You'll become a reincarnated devil and awaken supernatural abilities. When that happens, destroying cursed spirits will be easy. Miko froze. So this was the way to exorcise them? Abandon her humanity and become a devil? She hesitated, then glanced at Lynn's wings and sighed internally. There was no choice. After making her decision, she realized. It wasn't as difficult to accept as she thought. Come to think of it. Rather than remaining human and continuing to suffer in a world infested with evil spirits, wasn't it better to become a devil and gain the power to fight back? And Lynn had only revealed his identity after she agreed to join. If she had chosen not to, he wouldn't have forced her. More importantly, he had already warned her before. She was the one who refused to believe it. After preparing herself mentally, Miko's eyes grew firm. She would become a devil. To be continued. Chapter 15, Spirit Seer Devil. Have you made up your mind? Miko clenched her fists and nodded firmly. Lynn reminded her, once you become a devil, your life will belong to me. You'll serve me for eternity. Serve, serve, serve? Miko's cheeks flushed, and her pupils trembled violently. Here it comes. The price of making a deal with a devil. She secretly glanced at Lynn. It doesn't seem too hard to accept. Although he's a devil, he's really handsome. Besides, since she had already made up her mind, there was no room for hesitation. And no problem. Even though she was determined, she couldn't help feeling shy when saying it out loud. After all, they were talking about serving. Lynn played with the evil piece in his hand, the corners of his lips curling slightly. Then let's begin the reincarnation ceremony. Ah, yes. Miko immediately straightened up, suddenly feeling nervous. What exactly was the reincarnation ceremony like? Oh, wait. Do they have to choose a location? She glanced left and right at her body, as if trying to determine the best spot. Seeing this, Yutaha couldn't help but comment, I suggest you choose your back. Based on my experience, that's the best position. If Lynn hadn't made the decision himself last time, she would have chosen that spot. Lynn also nodded in agreement. Having gone through this with Yutaha, he now understood why the gods in Danmaki engraved blessings on the back. Alright, then place it on my back. Miko followed the advice without hesitation and blinked. Then what? Lynn gave a warm, sunny smile and said, take off your shirt. Huh? 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 Miko's eyes widened as her face turned bright red. She panicked, flailing her hands in a flustered manner. What's happening? Is this, the sacrifice stage? She wasn't ready for this. Miko was spiraling into chaos when Yutaha, watching from the side, sighed and smacked her forehead. Clearly, Miko had misunderstood something. Unable to take it anymore, Yutaha quickly clarified, relax, he just needs to see your back. Hearing that, Miko finally calmed down a little. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath before reopening them. Though her face was still red, she was noticeably more composed. I understand. Turning around, Miko faced away from Lynn and removed her shirt. She hugged herself slightly, covering her front, leaving only her smooth, fair back exposed. The back straps, should I undo them? Her voice trembled slightly. Exposing her back in front of a boy she had just met. It was embarrassing. Lynn thought about it for a moment. Since it might obstruct his view, he said, undo them. Miko's body trembled. She took a deep breath before slowly reaching behind her. Click. The straps loosened and slid down. If one looked closely, they could see the slight curves pressed together by her arms. Lynn didn't let her remain in this state for too long. Without hesitation, he pressed the evil piece against her back. The cold touch sent a shiver through Miko's body. Like a stone sinking into a lake, the evil piece slowly merged into Miko's body upon contact. Boom! Miko's pupils dilated, and the sound of her heartbeat echoed through the classroom. Something was awakening. At the same time, changes appeared on Miko's back. Lines of data emerged one after another. Yatsuya Miko. Low-class devil. Race, devil. Master, Lynn Valifor. Strength, I0. Agility, I0. Durability, I0. Magic power, I0. Inherent skills. Yin-Yang eyes. Psychic vision. Increased magic power growth rate. Spirit Seer Devil. Special attack on spirit creatures. Forced command over spirits. Spirit Devouring. Devil Transformation, closely linked to Spirit Devouring, this ability fully unleashes the spirit energy within the body upon transformation. Spirit Seer Devil, it suits Miko perfectly. Lynn glanced at the status screen, pleased with the outcome. He memorized the data with ease. Another peerage member secured. And once again, it was a special kind of devil. Yutaha also took a look. A summoning-type devil. Miko's abilities seemed far more varied than her own. But even so, an archivist devil like her was by no means inferior whether to humans or devils. What caught her attention was the skill listed under Spirit Seer Devil. This was an ability awakened through reincarnation. But Yin-Yang eyes was likely something Miko had possessed even before turning into a devil. Thinking back to her own archivist devil ability, which had awakened when she became Lynn's first reincarnated devil, Yutaha felt a little complicated. She had assumed she was naturally gifted. But Miko had more talent than her? That thought made Yutaha a bit depressed. However, when she saw Lynn's satisfied smile, she relaxed. At the very least, she was the one who brought him Miko. That meant she had helped Lynn in some way, right? With that in mind, Yutaha's mood brightened. After the reincarnation ceremony ended, Miko felt dazed. She clenched her fists and could clearly sense the power surging through her body, far stronger than when she was human. And, her waist and abdomen felt a bit itchy. Could it be? Miko guessed it was the emergence of her devil wings, just like Lynn's. Not only that, but there was also a strange sensation at the base of her spine. Could that be a devil's tail? It's about to slip. Yutaha, noticing that Miko was too caught up in examining her body, quietly reminded her. Miko suddenly realized her top was slipping, and she panicked. Ah! In her rush, she clumsily clutched her clothes and hurried to put them back on. Yutaha sighed and reached out to help. Click! She fastened the straps for Miko. Once fully dressed, Miko blushed and bowed slightly to Yutaha. Thank you. Yutaha waved it off. You're part of the family now. It's only natural to help each other. On the other side, Lynn received a notification. Ding! You have obtained a new peerage member, Yatsuya Miko. Ding! Your peerage member Yatsuya Miko has been reincarnated as a special devil, Spirit Seer Devil. Ding! You have obtained the skills Yin Yang Eyes and Spirit Seer Devil. Ding! Your strength has increased. To be continued. Chapter 16, Head Pat. Lynn opened his status panel. Lynn Valifor. Race, Devil. Rank, High Class Devil. Power, None. Peerage, Kazumajayaka Yutaha, Yatsuya Miko. Skills, Evil Pieces, Demonic Summoning, Magic Release, Archivist Devil, Yin Yang Eyes, Spirit Seer Devil. Not much had changed in the panel, aside from Miko's addition to the peerage column and the inclusion of Yin Yang Eyes and Spirit Seer Devil in the skills section. Yin Yang Eyes. Other than his vision feeling slightly clearer, Lynn didn't notice any major changes from acquiring this ability. As a devil, he could already perceive spirits and supernatural entities with ease. However, after examining the skill more closely, he realized that Miko's yin-yang eyes were at an exceptionally high level. Shifting his focus to Spirit Seer Devil, Lynn's expression turned thoughtful. This skill was practically the bane of cursed spirits. It was clear just how much Miko had been forced to endure because of her encounters with them. As for his rank, there were no changes. He remained a high-class devil. Even though the system notified him that his strength had improved, Miko was only a low-class devil, so the boost was minimal. When Yutaha was reincarnated, Lynn had been on the verge of breaking through from mid-class to high-class. Her addition had given him the final push. If he wanted to reach the next level, it would likely take quite some time. At that moment, a thought crossed Lynn's mind. What would happen if he brought Natsuki Minamiya into his peerage? While the blessings granted by his evil pieces were similar to the blessing system from Orario, they were fundamentally different. The ranking structures, in particular, were distinct. In Orario, adventurers progressed through LV1, LV2, LV3, and so on. But in his case, devils were ranked as low class, mid class, high class, and beyond. Two completely different power systems. Although everyone started with I0 stats, the rank granted by his system wasn't always low-class devil by default. If he were to reincarnate Natsuki Minamiya, she would likely start at high-class devil or possibly even higher. And if that were the case, his strength would experience a massive boost. However, bringing Natsuki into his peerage wouldn't be easy. It would have to be a step-by-step process. Besides, while both Yutaha and Miko were currently at lower ranks, with his blessings, it was only a matter of time before they grew stronger. Lynn temporarily set those thoughts aside. After adjusting her clothes, Miko looked up at him expectantly. Lynn asked, "So? How do you feel?" "Better than ever." Miko's eyes sparkled with excitement. After reincarnating as a devil, her body felt stronger, her mind clearer, and more importantly her confidence had skyrocketed. She was itching to test her newfound strength against an evil spirit. Seeing this, Lynn handed her a copy of her stats. Miko took it with a puzzled look. "What's this?" "Your status sheet." Lynn gave her a brief explanation of the blessing system. Once she understood, she carefully examined the data. Low-class devil. Well, it was the lowest rank, but that just meant she had a lot of room to grow. Miko had a good attitude about it. She understood how strength progression worked. Everyone started at I0, so there was no need to dwell on the numbers. Her eyes then landed on the skill section. Yin-yang eyes, so this is the reason I can see evil spirits. Miko stared at the skill description, feeling a mix of emotions. Thanks to this ability, she had lived an incredibly eventful life. If she hadn't been reincarnated as a devil, she wasn't sure how much longer she could have lasted. Shaking her head, she continued reading. Then, her eyes lit up like two bright stars. Spirit Seer Devil. I love this skill. Miko was eager to try it out. She was more than ready to go out and exorcise some ghosts. Master Lin, when are we leveling up? Miko looked up, her eyes sparkling like a kitten's as she gazed at Lin. Lin raised a hand and patted her head, then pointed to the still bright sky outside. If you don't mind exposing your devil identity to humans, you can go anytime. Feeling the warmth of his hand on her head, Miko's excitement cooled a little. After some hesitation, she said, then, let's wait until nighttime when there are fewer people around. Meanwhile, Yutaha, who had been writing in her devil tome, happened to glance up and witness this master-servant bonding moment. Her pen stalled for a second. Then, as if nothing had happened, she resumed writing. Except the force she was using had noticeably increased. The devil tome trembled slightly. Failed. After finishing her notes, Yutaha casually stepped between Lynn and Miko, handing the devil tome to Lynn for review. Lynn took the book. Miko's 2 newly acquired skills had been recorded. Lynn wanted to test whether Yutaha's archivist devil ability could store these skills for later use. The result was predictable failure. As expected. Lynn wasn't surprised, and neither was Yutaha. After all, the archivist devil ability only allowed her to record magic, mystical arts, and spells. And all of those were learnable abilities. Skills like yin-yang eyes or spirit seer devil, which were innate or awakened through reincarnation, fell outside its scope. Still, Lynn patted Yutaha's head. It's fine. Your ability is already incredibly powerful. I don't need comforting. Despite her words, she still enjoyed the head pat. On the other side, Miko peeked at the demonic tome curiously. What's this? My awakened ability archivist devil, Yutaha answered. Since Miko had already seen her abilities, she didn't mind explaining her own. That's amazing. Miko was genuinely impressed. Yutaha remained silent. Indeed, archivist devil was an incredible ability. Afterward, Miko filled out the pending application to join the club. She also exchanged contact information with both Lynn and Yutaha. Once that was done, Lynn added Miko to his peerage group chat. Miko stared at the name of the chat. Her expression turned complicated. She was part of Lynn's harem now. But what surprised her was that, aside from Lynn, there were only 2 members, her and Yutaha. Which meant that once the peerage expanded, she would be considered one of the veteran members. As she entertained these thoughts, she continued discussing plans with Lynn and Yutaha for their nighttime training session. But then... Wait. I feel like I forgot something. Miko muttered to herself. At the front of the school building. Yurikawa Hana tilted her head and asked curiously, where's Miko? Miko, sorry. Something came up, and I totally forgot about you. Hana, humph. Miko, you're the worst. Miko, I'll buy you daifuku tomorrow as an apology. Please forgive me. Hana, too. Miko, no problem. After apologizing to Hana over line, Miko finally let out a sigh of relief. Let's do it here. Lynn stood at the entrance of an empty alley. Hearing that, Miko put her phone away in her bag. A dark, windy night, the perfect time to exorcise evil spirits. Lynn scanned the area and selected the weakest cursed spirit for Miko's first battle. Try that one. Lynn pointed ahead to the right. Miko followed his gaze. A bloated, greasy-looking cursed spirit stood there. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself and walked toward it with determined steps. Even though she was mentally prepared, she couldn't suppress the nervousness creeping up on her. Her breathing grew shallow, and her scalp tingled slightly. To her, cursed spirits had always been nightmarish entities. Overcoming that fear wasn't easy. Countless emotions surged through her mind. Finally, she stood face to face with the grotesque spirit. Can you see me? Can you see me? It's time to put an end to this. Let's settle this, Mr. Cursed Spirit. Miko stared at it with unwavering determination. The greasy spirit froze for a moment before realization dawned, its expression twisting into one of excitement. You can see me. You can see me. Yeah, I can see you. Ah, I've wanted to say that for so long. Miko's spiritual presence suddenly became transparent. The cursed spirit stiffened in shock. It had never encountered such a bold human before. But it didn't dwell on it for long. Its expression twisted into a malicious grin as it roared, I'll eat you. I'll eat you. Eat me? Or eat my shoulder bag. Miko had no intention of dirtying her hands. With a powerful swing, she hurled her shoulder bag at the spirit, coating it with magic power as it flew. SSSHH. The moment the bag struck the cursed spirit, it reacted as if it had been touched by its natural enemy. It barely had time to let out a shriek before disintegrating instantly. Miko blinked in surprise. That was easy. A special attack against spiritual creatures. In an instant, the cursed spirit was completely obliterated. And she hadn't even used much magic power. She examined her bag and muttered, Cursed spirits, are they really this weak? It's just that this one was particularly weak. Lynn reminded her, there are different levels among cursed spirits. This was clearly one of the lowest tier ones. Ah, I see. Miko scratched her cheek, reining in her momentary overconfidence. Of course, with your current strength, you can handle most cursed spirits without an issue. Lynn didn't want to discourage her and continued, now, try out the other abilities of Spirit Seer Devil. Yes, Master Lynn. Spirit manipulation. Miko took a deep breath and released her magic power. Almost instantly, a nearby cursed spirit's eyes dulled, it had fallen under her control. Success! Excited, Miko commanded it to attack another cursed spirit. Roar! The two spirits immediately clashed, tearing into each other. Seeing this, Miko took control of several more cursed spirits and ordered them to gang up on their target. The cursed spirit at the receiving end was stunned. Under the righteous beatdown, it was swiftly exorcised. Panting slightly, Miko said, "Right now, I can control up to 10 cursed spirits at once." Low-tier cursed spirits. Lynn silently added that distinction in his mind. Very impressive. He clapped his hands in encouragement. Miko could only control 10 low-tier cursed spirits, but Lynn? As a high-class devil, he could manage far more. After letting Miko rest for a moment, he moved on to the next ability test. Spirit Devouring. Miko gathered the 10 spirits together. Her eyes glowed slightly as she whispered, "Spirit Devourer." Ah! The cursed spirits let out agonized screams as their bodies twisted and compressed. At their center, a dark vortex formed, pulling them in. A moment later, all that remained was a small, translucent purple bead. Miko picked it up. Almost immediately, the bead crumbled into dust and scattered like sand in the wind. Miko blinked. She concentrated, but... I don't feel any different. One by one, she absorbed the remaining 9 beads. Even then, I still don't feel anything. Lynn observed her carefully and pondered the situation. Alright, that's enough for today. As soon as he finished speaking, a teleportation magic circle flared to life beneath their feet, engulfing Miko and Yutaha. Hi! Miko barely had time to react before they vanished from the alley. Lynn's house. A flash of purple light filled the room. Lynn, Miko, and Yutaha suddenly appeared in the living room. Miko's eyes widened. Whoa, that was amazing. Instant teleportation to a completely different place. Yutaha, having experienced it before, remained unfazed. She even gave Miko a brief explanation of teleportation magic. But Miko's attention was elsewhere. So, this is Master Lin's house. Yutaha. I just explained teleportation magic, and that's what you focused on? Lynn, however, had no intention of letting Miko simply admire his home. Miko, take off your shirt. Again. Miko was startled but her body instinctively obeyed. After all, she had experience now. Yutaha guessed, is it time for a grace update? Lynn nodded. He pricked his finger and let a drop of blood fall onto Miko's back. Status update. Yatsuya Miko. Rank, low-class devil. Race, devil. Master, Lynn Valifor. Strength, I0 rightward arrow I1. Agility, I0 rightward arrow I2. Durability, I0 rightward arrow I1. Magic power, I0 rightward arrow I9. Inherent skills. Yin-Yang Eyes, omitted. Spirit's Ear Devil, omitted. As expected. Her total stats had increased by 13 points. 10 of those clearly came from soul devouring. Even her physical stats had grown slightly. A random experience pill? Lynn's expression turned odd. If he fed Miko a high-tier cursed spirit, wouldn't she instantly level up? It probably wasn't that simple. There had to be a limit somewhere. That would need testing. After copying the data, Miko got dressed and checked her stats. My stats increased so fast. She was surprised. And even my physical abilities improved. But I don't remember using any strength. She raised her arms, testing them in confusion. Probably spirit devouring. Yutaha had reached the same conclusion. Random experience pills. What a ridiculous ability. She muttered enviously. But before Miko could celebrate. Ring. Her phone rang. Oh no. I forgot to tell my mom. Please send me back, Master Lin. Yatsuya residence. Miko stood at the door of her house, bowing slightly as she thanked Lin. Lin waved it off. It's fine. I was planning to come here anyway to set the teleportation coordinates. That. Miko hesitated for a moment before whispering, would you like to come in for a bit? Lin glanced at the half-open door behind her and said, I think you should explain everything to your mother first. Ah. Miko stiffened. Turning her head slowly, she saw that the front door was slightly ajar. A deep sense of unease filled her. Miko sighed in frustration. All right. Then, see you tomorrow. Lin gave a casual wave, stepped into a hidden spot, and vanished using teleportation magic. Just as Miko turned back toward the door. Miku. Miko flinched. Her mother, Yatsuya Toko, stood behind her, smiling, but with an unmistakable aura of interrogation. So my dear Miko was out late because she was on a date with her boyfriend. Toko sighed dramatically. Poor me. I waited for my precious daughter to come home, and the food got cold. I'm still hungry. I'm so sorry, Mom. Miko immediately apologized, her survival instincts kicking in. Tuko's eyes narrowed playfully. Fine. Just bring your boyfriend home next time, and I'll forgive you. Hi. Dash. The next day. Miko arrived a little late. Yesterday, she had promised Hana a daifuku as an apology. True to her word, she took Hana to a dessert cafe before heading to school. By the time she finally arrived, she muttered to herself, I really need to learn teleportation magic. Thinking back to how effortlessly Lynn traveled with teleportation magic, Miko couldn't help but feel envious. During class, she secretly sent a message in the Lynn's Peerage Harem group chat, asking about how to use teleportation magic. Yutaha's response? A massive wall of dense, technical theory. Miko took one look. And gave up instantly. I'm not built for this kind of stuff. Standing outside the club room, she let out a silent wail of despair. Still, she pulled herself together and pushed open the door. Inside the club room, Lynn sat by the window, his eyes slightly closed, lost in thought. Beside him, Yutaha was tapping away furiously on a tablet. However, what really caught Miko's attention was the bloated, grotesque cursed spirit struggling in the middle of the room. It was bound by an unseen force, its body so massive that it nearly reached the ceiling. Gya. The bloated cursed spirit let out an ear-splitting shriek. Miko immediately rushed into the room and slammed the door shut behind her. She acted so fast, it was as if she were afraid the spirit's cry would echo through the entire school. Lynn opened his eyes. Relax. Ordinary people can't see or hear it. Although, Natsuki might complain later if the noise reached her over line. Subconsciously. Miko remembered that normal people couldn't perceive spirits and scratched her cheek awkwardly. So, what's going on with this one? She was a little confused. Why did the Supernatural Investigation Club have a cursed spirit tied up like a hostage? Her expression turned subtle. If this had been yesterday, she never would have imagined such a sight. This is a second-grade cursed spirit, Lynn explained. Then, he turned to Miko and said, use spirit devouring on it. Right. Miko quickly understood. They wanted to test how effective spirit devouring was on a stronger target. Taking a deep breath, she raised her hand, aimed her palm at the bloated spirit, and softly chanted. Spirit Devourer. Buzz. A wave of magic power surged outward. The cursed spirit shuddered violently. Sensing an impending threat, it struggled wildly, twisting and thrashing against its restraints. But that was all. Lynn silently observed as Miko began panting from the effort. A second-grade cursed spirit. It was possible for spirit devouring to work, but it was too taxing on Miko at her current level. And more importantly, this spirit did not turn into an experience pill. That's enough. Lynn stopped her before she overexerted herself. After all, he had seen Yutaha collapse from mana exhaustion before. And while he didn't mind restoring his peerage members' mana, it was better to avoid unnecessary strain. Miko exhaled deeply, lowering her hand. She looked at the cursed spirit, which hadn't changed much, and sighed. I'm sorry, Master Lin. I'm still too weak. I couldn't even damage it. Lin reassured her, it's fine. In fact, this is normal. If there were no limits, then all he'd have to do was feed Miko a special class cursed spirit, and she'd skyrocket in strength. Lin walked up to the struggling spirit and casually patted its body. Alright, you're useless now. The magic restraints suddenly tightened. A final, tortured scream echoed before the cursed spirit was crushed into oblivion. But unlike Miko's method, Lin's spirit devouring didn't turn spirits into beads for absorption. Instead, he felt a direct boost to his strength. Though it wasn't as significant as when he reincarnated peerage members. Still, it confirmed something important. Recruiting and upgrading his peerage was the fastest way to grow stronger. If he could get his hands on a first-grade or special-grade cursed spirit, it might result in a major breakthrough. But those aren't exactly easy to come by. It would depend on luck. Well, maybe he should ask Natsuki Minamiya to keep an eye out. Although cursed spirits weren't her main area of expertise, she did have a colleague who specialized in them. Of course, Lin wasn't entirely sure how much Spirit Seer Devil would help against a special-grade cursed spirit. Best to be cautious. Is it over? Yutaha yawned, stretching her arms as she set down her tablet. That old hag Machida Sonoko had been on her case again. Just because she missed a few deadlines, Machida had the nerve to lecture her? TCH. She was probably going through menopause or something. And besides, it wasn't like Love Metronome was selling well anyway. If this had been the past, she might have been upset about it. But ever since meeting Lin, everything had changed. Even her writing had taken a new direction. Maybe her next book should be called The Devil Lady and Her Faithful Servant? Yutaha's eyes flickered toward Lin, a mischievous glint in them. If he knew what she was thinking, he'd probably say, completely reversed the roles, Just the thought made her chuckle. Lynn shook his head. He could tell that Yutaha was daydreaming again. He pulled out his phone and said, I sent a file in the group chat. Check it when you have time. A file? Basic knowledge of the underworld. Docs. The underworld. Miko instinctively exclaimed when she saw the words on the document. Yutaha, on the other hand, remained much calmer. After all, she had learned a bit about it from Rias before. But that was the extent of her knowledge. She only knew that the underworld was the stronghold of devils. As for the details, she was still unfamiliar. Lynn explained, Rias sent this to me. She said it was created to help reincarnated devils quickly understand basic knowledge about devils. If you're interested, take a look. Just treat it as casual reading. Casual reading? Miko and Yutaha were immediately interested. For Yutaha, learning about devils could also serve as material for her writing. As for Miko, she was simply curious. It was ridiculous that she had already become a devil but still knew next to nothing about devils. Both of them took their seats and began reading the document. Devil weaknesses, other supernatural races, evil pieces, rating games, the current 4 great Mu. Surtsk's Grammary. Yutaha paused when she saw the name. Grammary. The same surname as Rias. Could it be? Yes, one of the current Mu. He's Rias's older brother, Lynn confirmed. His. Yutaha's eyes widened in shock. I never expected that such an approachable young lady had this kind of background. Rias. Miko glanced between Lynn and Yutaha. So she was a friend of Master Lynn and Yutaha? The Mu, hey. Yutaha sighed slightly but didn't dwell on it too much. Such a powerful figure felt too distant from her world. After all, what did the Mu even do? She was just a low-class devil. Which she confirmed after reading the devil ranking system in the document. Seeing her place at the bottom of the hierarchy, she suddenly felt very complicated. Reincarnated devils and evil pieces, so this is how they came to be. Yutaha sighed. Devils are devils, yet there's still a population shortage. But then, evil pieces have classes. Yutaha frowned. Thinking back, she didn't recall feeling any class bonuses when she was reincarnated by Lynn. You don't need to worry about that, Lynn said. You should have seen the creator of the evil pieces in the document. Yutaha nodded. Ajoka Beelzebub, one of the 4 great Mu. That's right. Lynn continued, but the evil pieces I use for my peerage. I created them. He raised his hand. A faint glow flickered between his thumb and index finger. In an instant, a brand new evil piece materialized out of thin air. Yutaha's eyes widened in shock. Her lips parted slightly as she murmured, no wonder. Ever since she read about evil pieces in the document, she had been curious. According to the document, devils reincarnated using Ajoka Beelzebub's evil pieces gained class bonuses. But none of them became special devils with unique awakened abilities like herself or Miko. Before yesterday, she had assumed she was special. But when Miko joined the peerage and received grace, Yutaha started having doubts. Was she really special? Before reincarnation, she was just a regular human. Miko, on the other hand, had yin-yang eyes, an ability that made her stand out. But today, she finally understood. It wasn't her that was special. It was Lynn, their master. The grace system was also created by Master, wasn't it? Yutaha asked. You could say that. Master, you're incredible. You did something even the Mu couldn't. Yutaha gazed at Lynn, admiration flickering in her eyes. Yes. Something that even the Mu couldn't do. If she dared to think even bolder. Lynn wasn't just above the Mu. There was no one else in this world who could compare to him. Even though both systems were called evil pieces, it was clear that Ajoka Beelzebub's version was far inferior to Lynn's. The grace system alone set them worlds apart. Now that she had a clearer understanding of devil rankings, she realized. The difference between low-class devils, mid-class devils, high-class devils, and ultimate-class devils was immense. And power progression was even more difficult. For her and Miko, they could increase their strength through training and exorcising spirits. If others found out about this, they'd be green with envy. Some would desperately want to join Lynn's peerage. But at the same time, it could also attract the wrong kind of attention. Gulp. Yutaha swallowed hard. She never realized just how valuable it was to become one of Lynn's peerage members. And that was before she even learned about the other perks of becoming a devil. Reading through the document, she found out that all devils had extended lifespans, slowed aging. Even a low-class devil could live for centuries. Not to mention, she could level up through the grace system. Yutaha exhaled a long breath. She began reflecting on her past self. Back then, when Lynn invited her into his peerage, she had been reluctant. She even thought he was just a perverted guy trying to seduce her in exchange for power. If only she had known. She should have clung to him and begged to join. Duin. 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 Yutaha started banging her forehead against the table. Lynn stared at her in confusion. What kind of weird realization did she just have? Suddenly, Yutaha stood up and walked over to Lynn. Her slender fingers cupped his face, her expression completely serious. The reward you promised me last time. Her eyes burned with conviction. Replenish my magic. To be continued. Chapter 20, The Bait. This. Miko covered her face with her hands, but her wide eyes peeked through her fingers, fixed on Lynn and Yutaha. Yutaha-senpai, so bold. Her cheeks burned, her whole body felt hot, and her thighs pressed together unconsciously. After a brief moment, Yutaha pulled away from Lynn's lips. Her gaze was hazy, filled with lingering emotions, a faint blush painting her face. So moist. Lynn gave a simple two-word evaluation in his heart. Yutaha blinked, returning to her senses. Then, as if realizing what she had just done, her hands trembled violently. What did I just do? My dignity. The dignity of a maiden. Yutaha abruptly pulled back, straightened her posture, ran her fingers through her hair as if nothing had happened, and stammered. Don't misunderstand. I just thought that offering some benefits to my master was a basic duty of a follower. Lynn smirked, watching her flustered act in amusement. Then, he calmly reminded her. But wasn't that a reward I gave my follower just now? After all, you were the one who said it was for replenishing magic. Yutaha's body stiffened. Then, as if in defiance, she retorted. There was no magic transfer just now. It doesn't count. Next time, I'll come to collect it properly. With that, she awkwardly turned toward the door, her movements stiff and unnatural. I just remembered something important. I'll be going now. Bang. The door slammed shut. Leaning against the wall outside, Yutaha clutched her chest, feeling her heart race wildly. My body, it's so hot. She exhaled shakily, hugging herself, her eyes slightly unfocused. Too impulsive. She had acted on instinct, without thinking. Raising a trembling hand, she touched her lips then, unconsciously, a foolish smile spread across her face. My second kiss. The sensation was far stronger than the first time. And this time, she was the one who initiated it. He. Yutaha chuckled softly, falling into an irresistible daydream. Suddenly, inspiration surged through her like a flood. A spark. A breakthrough. Yutaha's eyes widened in realization. Oh no! I forgot to bring my tablet. She's unexpectedly innocent. Lynn recalled Akeno's past evaluation of Yutaha. It was surprisingly accurate. Meanwhile, Miko was in the middle of a crisis. She had just witnessed what felt like the kiss of the century. Before she could even process what had happened, Yutaha's parting words sent her into another downward spiral. It's a follower's duty to provide benefits to their master. Is that really true? Is this a devil-exclusive lifestyle? Miko's hands trembled as she frantically flipped through the basic knowledge of the underworld. Damn it, there's nothing about this in the guide. But Yutaha-senpai just did that. As a follower, wouldn't it be natural for her to show appreciation as well? If she didn't, would that be considered neglecting her duty? Would Lynn end up disliking her? Miko thought back to the description of stray devils she had just read. Devils abandoned by their masters were treated like vermin in the underworld. No. Miko abruptly stood up, her expression resolute. She took determined steps toward Lynn. Lynn. Why does this feel familiar? You. Before he could finish, Miko suddenly leaned in and pecked his cheek. It's a benefit for Master Lynn. She stammered out the words and bolted, her face as red as a tomato. Bang. The door slammed shut again. Outside, Miko let out a deep breath, her cheeks still burning. Then, she felt a sharp gaze on her. Slowly turning her head, she locked eyes with a pair of wine-red irises. Ahaha. Yutaha-senpai, you're here too. Miko awkwardly greeted Yutaha, before quickly excusing herself. I have something urgent to do. I'll be going first. And just like that, Miko ran away. Yutaha narrowed her eyes. She's also fallen into the trap, huh? Inside the room, Lynn touched the damp spot on his cheek, momentarily stunned. Then, he rubbed his chin and murmured. Yutaha, you're such a good woman. Seeing Miko's hastily scribbled notes, Lynn could already guess what misunderstanding had formed in her mind. But that didn't matter. Because Lynn had already decided. This misunderstanding would become reality. Moments later, a new announcement appeared in the peerage harem group. It is a follower's duty to provide benefits to their master. And thus, the first rule of Lynn's family was established. Lynn nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly, his eyes sharpened. On his system panel, the devil's summoning skill flickered. Finally, his crimson pupils gleamed. A contract had been accepted. A contract that transcended worlds. A seemingly innocent flyer that facilitated demonic expansion and resource plundering across dimensions. Finally, someone took the bait.